You've sold us out to globalism.
Okay.
You are not working for Canada. You are working for your globalist partners. I wonder how much they're paying you to betray Canada. What do we do with traitors in Canada, Mr. Trudeau?
What
we
do
used
we
to
do?
hang them for treason. And you're doing that very same thing to us now. You've sold us out to...
Oh boy, this is not a new one. This is not a new video, but this is this is a classic. Holy holy. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, it's been another week. It's crazy. It's crazy how fast these days are going by. And wow, insane. Let's bring the chat in. Come on in, chat. Hey, how are we doing tonight? It's a slow start to this live stream. I just wanted to put that one out there because that, holy cow, that woman, and I'm talking, this was a while ago. She had some cojones to come out and say that to Justin Trudeau. I don't think they'd let anybody get that close to him anymore because, well, we all know Justin Trudeau. He's got a huge entourage these days, definitely for that. But hey, I wanted to share some of this stuff that I've noticed just recently. I wanted to show more about this. I wanted to give a shout out to the guy who shared this to me just before going live. Let's pop this up again. Do I have to, does this work? Yeah, there we go. So this is Sean on X saying hardcore. Have a look at this, Clyde. Just before going live here, I noticed that and just wanted to figure I'd start the stream out with that because that's just insane. But hey, welcome to the chat. Welcome in. Welcome back to another live stream. This is the live stream content for those that are just joining in. Maybe you're new to the channel. Every weekday I do videos in the morning. I compile as much information as I can to put together stories and just get the news out to people. At least some of the news. There's way too much news these days to get all of the news out there. But hey, we never know. We'll see how things go in the future. Things have been very busy from my end of things. So hey, we're doing it as much as we possibly can. So thanks for hanging out every morning doing these videos. And then every Friday I like to do a recap of all the things that are happening throughout the week. Maybe some stories that I couldn't get to, maybe some of the stories that I got to, but I could elaborate more than in a 10-minute video. And yeah, welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like on the live stream because it really helps out a ton to get this out there in the algorithm. The way this works, right? And most people think that, you know, Google may be doing things for nefarious reasons with your data, but when it comes to YouTube sells ads, and this is how this works. The more they keep you on the website, the more they get to serve ads to you. And I have nothing to do with how they serve the ads because that's going to be up to your relationship with YouTube. But from my perspective, it's what content are they going to put up for you to stay on the website? If they put up content that you don't like, people are going to leave the website. So what do? They use an algorithm to say, hey, this is the kind of content that this person likes. Hey, let's present more of this content to this person. If you hit that like button, it tells YouTube that other people that maybe consume similar types of content, they should be watching Clyde do something as well. So really appreciate it. Thank you for hitting that like button. It's free and it helps out a whole ton. So get down there and hit that like button. I really appreciate it. Absolutely. What do we have here? Drew Johns, Clyde, do something. Do you still catch any of the Northern Perspective live streams on Sunday night? I haven't lately. I've been watching a bunch of their content because I have a bit of a commute to work now. So I've been turning that on in the morning. It's been a steady consumption between them and Liberal Hive Mind. I don't know why. It's just like back and forth. That and Valuetainment. I love the PBD podcast. So if you guys don't know that, go check that out as well. They do a bang up job. I think it's like the second biggest podcast, like next to Joe Rogan. They're the biggest podcast. That's the thing. So yeah, go check that out. You'll absolutely love that. Chris with the $10 super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. People need to chill out and stop panicking about the WEF and their plans. They have for us. Just because that they want this and that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Most of their ideas are unrealistic. And I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. I'm actually absolutely going to have to agree with you on that one. But the reason why a lot of people are paying attention to it is because they have so much influence. And this is the crazy part about it. I mean, they don't have influence on social media, of course. I was pointing out 2 years ago their YouTube channel that has virtually no subscribers. And I was like, what is going on? You actually have world leaders on this website. People were calling it a conspiracy theory. And I was like, but they have a YouTube channel. They have their own thing. But yes, the more we expose what it is that they're after, the more and more our representatives are going to go away from what it is that they're doing. And we're going to get into some of that tonight in tonight's podcast. But yes, we're doing a great job. Of course, we should worry about what they want and what they're trying to implement. But as long as we expose and we show what the details of those plans are, that's where we get out of this stuff. This is how we get out of it. It's through knowledge. It's through understanding. It's through getting the truth out there. It's through sharing this stuff out there and letting people know about it. Not acting fanatical, though. And that, I think that's one thing that a lot of people need to drill down. You get really excited when you meet somebody and for a moment they're receptive to what you're saying. But if you go overboard and you're like, but the WEF this and blah, 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 and you fill their head with all kinds of stuff then people, oh, okay, crazy guys saying this and that. No, you wanna have an air about you that seems reasonable, and of course, be reasonable, not just seeming reasonable, but be reasonable. People get overwhelmed, especially when doing that. But that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Danger Dan, what was this? Danger Dan Reviews explains how Aussie political theater works. I'll have to check that guy out for sure. I don't know Danger Dan. I'll have to see him. Understand that. Thanks for the answer. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy world that we live in. There's some crazy things that people want, and there's some crazy things that people have wanted for a long time. I mean, look at the socialists of the 20th century. I mean, they're the socialists of the 21st century now. It's no different. Let's just hope that they don't win the battle of ideas, because that's where things go horribly, horribly wrong. Set your chat to live instead of top chat. How do you do that? I don't know how that. Done. Is that different? How is that different? What's the difference between that? That's okay. That's new to me. So I have it on live chat now. All right, here we go. It's a little different, I guess. It looks the same to me. Trish Prue, the $2 super chat. The WEF has over 900,000 subscribers. Just checked. Yes, when I first started looking into them, they had about 1,000 subscribers. Like, that's how crazy it is. Like, things have really blown up, and they can talk about it. I remember roughly about 2 years ago doing a video called, and I think in the title it was something along the lines of, yeah, now the WEF, talking about the WEF is no longer taboo. You're allowed to talk about it, and you're not a conspiracy theorist. That was a thing. I thought it was really strange at the time, especially because, I mean, you have politicians going to it. You have they have their YouTube channel. They have all these other things, and that's the thing. Saskatoon shines. Hi, Clyde. Thanks so much for the great content. My first time in chat. I've been away several weeks. Are you still moving out of Canada? I am, but it's complicated. There's a whole thing to do with this. So I'll give you the TLDR. Our plans are to move to Texas, but I'm an American citizen, so I can leave whenever I want. But my wife is a Japanese national with permanent residence in Canada, so she has to go through the immigration process outside of the United States. And because of the way it works, we have to complete the process before we can enter the United States. I can enter anytime, but my wife won't be able to. My two kids, they can be naturalized in. There's a process for that too. It won't be as lengthy, but it could take up to a year, and this is where we're at. And I don't know what kind of fees and lawyers and all these other things that we gotta pay for. And in the meantime, we're moving around from place to place to try to figure out what we're doing, and we're in the middle of another move. So yeah, it's a big thing. Don't mind the background and all of this other stuff, but this is the process. So yes, the plan is we're moving to Texas. And no, I'm not going to stop talking about Canadian things, because this is where my passion is. I want to talk about these things. Unfortunately, we can't afford to live where we're at anymore. For this next year, we're going to be digging into our savings just to afford to stay here in order for my wife to complete her immigration stuff. So this is where we're at with that. So yeah, thanks for your patience in this whole thing. And for those that already knew the story, this is the story. Maybe a little bit of an update for people who weren't paying attention. Bev Turner saying, I disagree. WEF just showed they rep. Well, they do rep in certain categories, but it looks like the popularity of candidates that want away from the WEF is growing. It's growing bigger and bigger all the time. And yeah, the liberals are going to burn for this, and so are the New Democrats in Canada. Conservatives look like they're gonna sweep the floor with all of this. No joke. But what? I mean, why is it that people are starting to look at this? Well, the world's getting crazier. It's getting crazier and crazier all the time. And I wanted to share this. Ollie London shared this on Twitter. I'm gonna pop this up because this is it's crazy pants. This is really seriously crazy territory. But this is Ollie London. Ollie London went through some crazy stuff of his own. He got wrapped up in the whole gender dysphoria thing, and then even racial dysphoria. He was that individual that wanted to transition from a white guy to a Korean, and went through tons of plastic surgeries and all this other stuff, and but just kept getting fed into it, and people kept, all the people around him, yeah, you should do that, you totally want to do that, and eventually figured it out and was like, holy cow, what did I do with my life? And has been an advocate against all of this stuff ever since. So this is the thing. But Ollie putting on Twitter here, non-binary woman has an epic meltdown after being kicked out of her hotel for demanding that the hotel staff wear a medical mask in her presence. And this is just amazing. It's amazing the response that you get from people that they're trying to impose themselves on others, and then when people don't appreciate that and say, I no longer want to do business with you, these are the freakouts that people they're so surprised. And this is the thing that astonishes me the most, is the sheer surprise that this individual has.
I don't know what to do. I have no answers. They're kicking me out of my hotel room because I asked them to wear an N95 mask.
Yeah.
And they said that if I wanted that, I was at the wrong hotel and I had an hour to leave. I don't know where to go.
It's a case of figure it out, sweetheart. I mean, I hate to sound so crass on this one, but it really is a case of, you're asserting your will on other people, and they don't want that. and so they're discontinuing their relationship with you, and it's a thing that happens. And I mean, if you've been, it's called being a spoiled brat, is what it is. It's called not having parents that are gonna set you straight in the beginning, and then you fall into all of these fads. I mean, oh, horrible existence here.
I'm almost out of money. More scans just keep getting added to the docket. I don't even have one fully functioning arm at this point. Where do I... My mom isn't answering the phone. It's not like we were estranged. I literally... Because she was super abusive, but...
I have to think, like, was she really super abusive? or I mean, neglect is a form of abuse. So yeah, maybe that's it. Neglecting their kid and having this kind of thing going. I mean, this is the congratulations. You've graduated from the college of mediocrity. This is the celebration. This is what we get in the celebration of mediocrity. This is exactly what we get.
And I still want my mom, but I don't know what to do. Where do I go? What do I do? My doctor just called me to do an anxiety.
G-Meister with the $2 super chat. Was her Uber Eats too late? Yeah, maybe. Was it late too? Possibly. That could be the case there. We've got Able Man with the Able Man 8 with a $10 super chat. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Clyde, have you seen the video from the recent G7 with Trudeau being left out while all the country leaders talk? I don't think I've seen that one. I don't know if I've seen that one. I'd have to look that one up. I heard that they were doing like the NATO thing, and it was totally tone deaf on his part. But I'll have to check that one out. Thank you. Thanks for bringing it to my attention, and thanks for the super chat. I really appreciate that. But let's get into some more of this stuff. So, of course, I have to hit this tab here. Boom. It does this little shake thing. Ryan Garrettson pointing out Andrew Coyne's opinion has zero credibility anymore. Obviously, he had a freak out this past week because Pierre Poilievre was happy that the shooter that tried to assassinate Donald Trump was killed. He was happy about it. And Andrew Coyne had a freak out about that. And then he wrote this article, do not remain calm. A second Trump presidency really will be that bad. Really? Really? Really, 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 really. Andrew Coyne does not understand. What is this? Andrew doesn't understand that panic is never the correct response to anything. No, he sure doesn't. No, and the crazy part about this is, and I mean, tell me in the chat. Let me know in the chat what you think. But essentially, when you look at the situation between, and we've had this chance. So Donald Trump is running for president. He's just named the nominee by the Republican National Convention. He's going to be running up against Sleepy Joe Biden, as they call him, or as Trump has nicknamed him. And so we've seen what a Trump presidency looks like. We've seen what a Biden presidency looks like. And the people are going to weigh the odds on this one. Now, under Trump, I mean, for me, this is a huge one. There were no new wars under Trump. There were absolutely no new wars. He was the first president in, geez, how long? That didn't start a new conflict. In fact, he ended conflicts. And there was peace in the Middle East. He did the one thing that everybody said that they were going to do and moved the embassy to, what was it? Tel Aviv, I think it was. Anyway, all of these things that everybody else said that they were going to do, he actually went and he did it. The economy was great. All of these things, trade deals got fixed. A lot of really bad trade deals that were no good for the middle class were fixed. And then you know, we were told it was going to be World War III. That's what we were told it was going to be. It literally was not World War III. But when Joe Biden got in, holy cow, did it start looking a lot like World War III. So, yikes. And it was drumming up with Clinton. If Clinton would have won, I think it would have been World War III. Yeah. I'm forgive me if I laugh when I see these things now, when I see people freaking out about Donald Trump. And I mean, this is, you know, a Canadian guy talking about what'll happen with Trump. He's also saying the same stuff about Pierre Poilievre. So just a little grain of salt with this one is, well, if you can't trust what he has to say about Donald Trump in America, what do you think his opinion is about Pierre Poilievre in Canada? So yeah, I'm going to throw that one out there, that I think this guy is full of it. He's full of himself to think that his opinion really matters that much. But yeah, that's essentially where we're at. But hey, you know, if the economy isn't doing good in Canada, which it isn't, you know, you can go out and get some of your handouts. Speaking of handouts, Trish Prue with a $2 handout. Thank you very much. Vance wrote hillbilly elegy about his life. I heard about that. And didn't Ron Howard make a movie out of it? I got to go see that. I want to check that out. The more I hear about this Vance guy, the more I like him. The more I like him. Actually, I want to pull up, before we move on to the next clip, because we're on the topic, I want to pull up, this page is down. Really? Twitter's down right now? You can't be serious. You can't be serious. Twitter is down? What do you mean Twitter's down? Get out. Is that real? No, you can't be serious. Let's pull up something here. Retry? Okay, Twitter's working. Let's search up J.D. Vance. Greatest hits. Because he's had some seriously good ones in debates. Let's see if it doesn't come up. The reason why I'm scrolling and I'm not showing it on the screen is because sometimes vulgar stuff pops up. It's Twitter, so it's one of those. It's one of those things. Let's bring this one up into the view so we can see it. But this is great. This will give you an idea of where JD Vance is and how he doesn't get roped in to a lot of these talking points, because the Americans do the same thing as Trudeau. This is why people say Trudeau is being a hypocrite by bringing U.S. style politics and then declaring U.S. style politics on his opponent. But nonetheless, you know, bring up the abortion debate, bring up this, bring up that. He is impervious to this kind of stuff, and it's refreshing. I like to hear this kind of thing from a politician. It's great.
The thing the media and Congressman Ryan, they talk about this all the time. The thing they never mentioned is that poor girl was raped by an illegal alien, somebody that should have never been in this state in the first place. When the media and people like Tim Ryan accuse me of engaging in the great replacement theory, I'll tell you exactly what happens, Tim. What happens is that my own children, my biracial children, get attacked by scumbags online and in person because you are so desperate for political power that you'll accuse me, the father of 3 beautiful biracial babies, of engaging in racism. We are sick of it. You can believe in a border without being a racist. You can believe in the country
I'll tell you what,
without being a racist.
I can really relate to this one. I love when people pull the race card on me, and it's like, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. Maybe you don't know who you're talking to, you know, and that sort of thing. But I love that he's quick. He's eager to just point it back.
And this just shows how desperate this guy is for political power.
I think it takes a special amount of gall to be from Joe Biden's political party and to complain about the fentanyl crisis that is ravaging not just Ohio, but the entire country, because it is Joe Biden's border policies that have invited this fentanyl into our country at record levels.
Doesn't this sound familiar? Isn't this crazy how familiar this sounds? just think about it. Like, all of the issues that are happening in Canada are also happening in the United States. You have this. I mean, what else do you call it? The left wing, the crazy left wing. They're bringing all of this stuff. You know, we have crazy drugs in the country. We have crazy amount, you know, like letting criminals off the hook. You know, they need jail, not bail. This is really crazy. It's really crazy. Because I haven't paid attention that much to, you know, this closely to American politics in some time. It's been, you know, I've been focusing all my energy on Canadian politics. Now that the U.S. election's happening, it's like, wow. Look how similar their situations are down there as they are up here. And it's because of terrible leftist ideological ideas that they're putting out, the policies that they're putting out there. It's crazy.
It explains that wife, the word wife, is an example of the type of language that we need to eliminate. And I'm just asking if that's something you think is necessary or something you support.
I'd have to give that one some more thought.
Why would you have to think about that?
I would hope that the word wife is not something that or is something that we can all agree is a reasonable vocabulary word that most Americans use in their daily life. It's not something that we need to eliminate. And I'm very confident that the majority of Ohioans, if there's a pilot who is offended by the word wife or the word cockpit, maybe that person shouldn't be a pilot. So rather than kowtowing to people who are fragile, maybe we should actually say, if you're so worried about the words that we are using, you shouldn't be flying, multi-ton metal engines through the sky. And I just ask all of us to maybe try to focus as much on real problems, like the fact that our aviation system seems to not be working as well as it used to, than the fact that we may use uninclusive or under-inclusive language.
Uninclusive or under-inclusive language. It's all the same stuff. They have the same problems going on there, and they're coming back to fix it. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see, a Trump-Vance win in America, and then right afterwards, back to back, a Pierre Poilievre conservative win in Canada. I think it'll be the first time in my lifetime anyway, where you had conservatives on both sides of the border. We could actually get some stuff done as a neighboring community. I think it could be really, really good. It can move things in the right direction. But where's the direction that our country's headed? Well, it's headed in this direction. And here's Justin Trudeau saying his piece here. Parents, take note. The latest, I can't even say this with a straight face. Parents, take note. The latest Canada Child Benefit payment goes out today, and we've boosted it, just like all your boosters that you have to take. And at what point, if it wasn't for the truckers, you'd probably have to be boosted to even qualify for this crap. This is the reality of the situation. If it wasn't for people standing up, how far would they have gone? Just in the chat, let me know how far you think they would have gone if nobody would have stood up in Canada, if it wasn't for our truckers that went down to Ottawa and said, enough of this. This is crazy. Mulroney and Reagan. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I guess that was a time when that happened. Mulroney famously bringing us more taxes. Okay, I guess we should rephrase it. It'd be nice to have, people that are concerned about liberty and us keeping our own finances in order and keeping our money. Nonetheless, on both sides of the border, that'd be fantastic. Mulroney with the GST. What? Get out of here. World War I WW guy, member for 10 months. Has it been that long? Thank you so much. It's not just Canada and the US, it's all over the world, and it's not left governments, it's globalist WEF and WHO types using weak politicians to do their worst. Yes, you're right. And they'll use the right. They'll use the right just like they'll use the left. It's authoritarians versus liberty, really, at the end of the day. Anyway, so Justin Trudeau, and we've boosted it. We've boosted your child tax benefit or your child, sorry, child Canada child benefit payment instead of a tax benefit, instead of a tax deduction, which would be a better way of doing it. And we've boosted it, so you're getting more money in your bank account, tax-free. You've already been, this is tax money being given back. Your kids, for your kids' summer and for the back to school shopping you'll be gearing up for. What is it, an average of about $25 a kid? Woo! Thanks. It only took more than half my income. It really only took me more than half my income to afford it. So I posted this one out there. I gotta hit that. Wouldn't it be great if we could just keep more of our own money in the first place? Hey, what a novel concept. What a novel idea. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if, you know, while you're taxing everybody and then you're making all these bureaucracies to give back little tidbits of people's money, why not just kibosh that whole thing? Why not just cancel that whole service? And how about Canadians get to keep more of their own money? That would not be a concept that this guy would be willing to engage with. And this is why I think Canada really needs to step out of this. And I think people are waking up. I really hope people are waking up with the price of you know, just keeping a roof over your head these days, with the price of food these days, with the price of everything. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. We cannot afford it. And this is why people are turning in different directions. And well, this one guy, he posted and he said the quiet part out loud. I love this post, by the way. Liz Churchill posting this. Canada is a communist country. Listen to this guy explain.
Canada's tax system is a criminal enterprise, sucking dry the $55,000 annual income of the average Joe. Trudeau and the Talking Timbit pocket a combined $11,419 in income tax, while $3,957 disappears into employment insurance and the Canadian pension plan. Considering 32% of fuel costs in Ontario are taxes, a further $1,000 is seized from Joe and an additional $6,000 in property taxes. In total, Joe relinquishes $22,376 annually to the government. The remaining $32,624 is subject to a 13% sales tax every time he spends a dime, dwindling Joe's purchasing power to $28,380, or half of his annual salary. Essentially, Joe works 6 months out of the year as a slave to the state. And
that's before he even gets to spend a penny. This is the thing. And we don't even have pennies anymore because the inflation has gone so bad that they've recalled all the pennies, because you know what? It costs about 5 cents to mint a penny. That's how bad it's gotten. You know, at one point, there were no pennies. And we just had, you know, gold and silver and, you know, weights and measures and all this stuff. And things got so cheap. We were in a deflationary environment so much so that they couldn't keep making smaller and smaller silver coins. The dime was already small enough that they said, okay, well, let's use some other coins. We'll make it with other stuff. What should we use? Oh, some guys, hey, try nickel. Okay. Made a nickel. And this is why the nickel's bigger than the dime. It never made sense until you knew the metallurgical thing about it. Yeah, that's why the nickel is bigger than the dime. And then the penny, well, they made it out of copper because it was one of those things. Now they couldn't make pennies out of copper. They were making it out of all these other cheaper metals. And it cost 4 to 5 cents to mint one of those things. This is how bad the economy's gotten. So you've had half of your income taken away before you even get it. Before it's even in your bank account. Half of it's been taken away for what? For all the things that the government wants to spend on? Well, at least they're spending money on good stuff. They're not. They're not spending it on anything good. They're spending it on giving away foreign aid to Ukraine. They're giving it to all these other things. It's insane. The stuff that they're spending our money on, we've got nothing to show for it. Trudeau doubled the national debt. What do we have to show for it? A bunch of services rendered. Done. It's over. The money's never coming back. You'd never get anything out of it. We don't have any new bridges. We don't have any new roads. We don't have any new infrastructure. We don't have any new anything. But it only cost us doubling the national debt that took 160 some odd years to accrue? You kidding me? This is crazy. So what is it now? Okay, now they've taken half our income before we even get to have it. Now what do we get once we have the income?
What does Joe get in return for this modern day serfdom? A government that imprisoned him in his own home for years, coerced him into taking potentially harmful experimental pharmaceutical products, a healthcare system that ranks second to last among its peers, an economy spiraling towards disaster, as well as out of control crime rates and mass homelessness plaguing our streets. All of this courtesy of a cabal of traitorous bureaucrats who dream of eradicating private car ownership by 2030 and are actively pushing legislation that would throw Canadians in jail for daring to utter anything deemed hateful by their Orwellian standards. Tyranny isn't a distant threat, it's already entrenched in Canada's governance, eroding the freedoms fought for by generations past.
Unreal. Utaka with it. What are you talking about? We got rainbow crosswalks. Okay, that's something we can keep. That's something we can keep. It's still gonna be around at the end of the day. We still got that. Thank you for the comment. I really appreciate that. More than half now. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So once you've spent your money, or once you've paid your taxes, then you get to go pay taxes on everything. You get to go pay on your average thing. You got your HST, if that's a province that you live in. You have your sales tax, your goods and service tax, your provincial sales tax, all of this stuff added on top of things. And then you have sin taxes on top of it. Yeah, what is a... The chat's moving too quick. What is a sin tax? Think about it. It's taking away your money. It's taking away your money because they think that it's their job to make sure that you're not doing those things. Full Wookie with a $5 super chat. Yeah, but we can all just agree that tampons in the men's bathroom is a worthy enterprise. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that, Full Wookie. Penny D with a $5 super chat. We're not even paying the US penny. I hope I'm reading this right. We're not even paying the US penny. So the US penny for us would be way too much money. Just with the exchange rate. But yeah, no, the penny was around because of deflation. And yes, here we are where there is no more penny at all. Penny. Thank you, Penny, for the super chat. But that's where we're at with that. So you've paid all of this tax, and then I went on a huge rant about this because, well, what is it? The LCBO in Ontario, the liquor board, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, is on strike. And my answer to this, call me crazy, is why don't we get the government out of the sale and control of liquor? Hey, how about that? Yeah, sure, there should be controls on it, such as you shouldn't be allowed to sell it to kids. Sure, I get that. But we have cigarettes at convenience stores. We have cigarettes at grocery stores. They sell those. Why can't they sell alcohol? Same thing. You gotta show your ID to get that stuff. That's a method. The government, though, is one of those things where as soon as you give them a little bit of power, do you think they're ever going to give it up? It's the hardest thing to do, is to get the government to relinquish power. That's why when they come in with a new tax, you got to say no. Like Brian Mulroney came up. Oh, we're just going to do this. We're just going to bring in this GST. It's going to be good because then we'll have the GST until we balance the budget, and then they balance the budget, and then, yeah, we're not getting rid of it. We're just going to keep that. That's exactly what we're going to do. Mr. Roscoe Pico with a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. $10 worth of fuel actually cost $43. Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the day. You're going by that $100 experiment, right? Where Joe makes $100, and then he spends half of his income just on taxes alone, and then he buys gasoline with that, and he tries to buy gasoline. He only gets $10 worth of actual gasoline. The rest of it's in taxes. Woohoo! That's a whole win. Isn't tax fraud? Well, it's not not when they're the ones writing the laws. Not at all. I mean, it would be fraud to steal money. Well, it's theft if you steal money from people against their will. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, we hear that a lot. That's a thing. But then that video caught my eye, and it reminded me of this video here that I'll share with you as well.
Lenin said that socialism was a transition phase between capitalism and communism. So you got capitalism empowers the individual. I point out there's two kinds of capitalism. There's this globalist, George Soros, that's bad. Once a one world government. But the individual capitalism, where you get to earn a living and make stuff and sell it, that empowers the individual. So capitalism empowers the individual. Socialism is this transition phase to take it all away until finally the government owns it all and you own nothing.
How is it that these people are embracing
deconstruction? It's a sales technique. If I was a toothpaste salesman, the first thing I would do is say negative things about the toothpaste you're currently using. You're still using that old stuff. Don't you know it'll eat the enamel off your teeth? You're like, oh, really? You're repulsed by it. Now I have you into a neutral. You're open-minded. What are all the toothpaste out there? Then I give you my pitch for this target-controlled breast freshener stuff. So you separated people from their past, get them into a neutral where they don't remember where they came from, and then you brainwash them into the future you have planned for them.
Brainwash them into the future that you have planned for them. Does this look something like this? You hear this all the time from socialists. Hey, this is the effects of capitalism. This is what capitalism will get you. Just look at Hastings. Go to Vancouver and you'll see what the product of capitalism is. Nobody cares about these people. Nobody cares about what's happening to them. But the reality of the situation is it's not the case. This isn't from a lack of government. This isn't from an absence of government in these cases. Not at all. This isn't from the government getting out of the way and just letting people deal with the consequences of their own actions. No, this is actually quite the opposite. This is the situation that happens when the government gets involved and then they guarantee people the lifestyle that they have. This is insane. Now I've heard arguments for safe injection sites because of the Scandinavian model, for example. So is it the Scandinavian model? It's the Dutch model in the Netherlands. When they tried it out, now they didn't try it out by running a government program. It wasn't a government program that made it so people were allowed to just go do drugs and then they had access to these places. No, it was actually churches were already doing it and they were getting people off of this stuff. And then the government was prosecuting them. And then there was enough pressure to not prosecute them and say, listen, don't prosecute us and we'll take care of these people and we'll get them clean. Linda Hunter gifting a membership to the channel. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Now in Canada, it's a completely different story. So what happens is the government comes in and, as they did these safe injection sites in Amsterdam, those places, if the people weren't getting clean, they would kick them out. And they say, come back when you're serious about this. In Canada, they open up these injection sites. And now, because it's government run, you have a right to it. There's no kicking them out if they're relapsing and not doing the right thing. No, not at all. They're not even getting treatment. All it is they're just drug dens. Hey, did somebody maybe mention something about this recently? Yeah, Mr. Pierre Polyev, he brought this up. And he had this to say.
Eric Andrewgy, Globe and Mail. Your party hasn't actually said what your policy towards safe injection sites will be. So you want to close this one, but will you close others? What will you do around safe injection sites across the country?
I will be closing them. We will close safe injection sites next to schools, playgrounds, anywhere else that they endanger the public and take lives. We will defund. By the way, they're not safe injection sites. I'm sorry.
Thank you for saying
your
it.
Dishonest language. See, you just repeat the language that is fed to you by the government. Are you a CP? Are you a CP? Who are you with? You're with the Globe and Mail. You guys repeat the same language you get from the liberal, the radical liberal NDP activists and bureaucracies. You call them safe. How can they be safe? You think it's safe when a bullet comes flying out of one of these sites to kill a mother in Toronto? Do you think that's safe? You think it's safe to have people using crack and heroin and cocaine next to a playground like this? You think that's safe? It's not safe.
Theorica, thank you
They're
so much
drug
for becoming a
dens.
member.
They're drug
Appreciate
dens.
that. Thank you.
And they've made everything worse. Everywhere
they're
they've been
drug
done,
dens.
they've made everything worse. And I know what you'll do now. You'll now go and call the same
Well, there was a hiccup. You guys are gonna jump in the chat about that in just a minute, I'm sure. As soon as the lag allows you to see that, yeah, okay. So we had a bit of a
in Vancouver. You're
bit of a lag there, a bit of a lag. Now, I just want to preface this by saying, if there's any lags like this in the future, it's just because I'm on the satellite internet. I'm on satellite internet, Starlink, and there's a lot of trees around here. So unfortunately, sometimes there won't be a satellite in the sky. One will go behind the tree, and then it's yet to come pop another one up. So that's what's going on. I'm only in this place for another very, very short amount of time. So hopefully future streams won't have these hiccups, but yeah, that's what went on there. Yeah, Starlink. It's not that Starlink's bad. It's just doesn't have very good upload speeds. Let's just say that. And yet, I mean, things are only getting better with Starlink at this point, but it's getting better. But there's a lot of hiccups, especially when you live in the woods. That's where we're at. Rick Yam with a $5 super chat. People constantly blame politicians for new taxes. We're all to blame for every tax that we have. We need to all say no and not take any other answer. I couldn't agree more. It's insane. But people are pushovers. What, up here in Canada? Oh, another tax. Oh, that sucks. I guess I'm just gonna have to deal with it. Yeah, that's what we do. We just have to deal with it. Okay. Maybe there's some other action that we can take. I want to really brainstorm this one. Because it's not working. We're getting taxed way too much, and unless this next government comes in with some sweeping measures, I don't know. But let's get back to the clip, because I wanted to share this right after I make this acknowledgement. Hey, GoCo Donnie gifting 5 memberships to the channel. Thank you so much. You guys are super generous tonight. I really appreciate it. Not to mention tonight I've got a special guest. I usually bring in a guest on Fridays. Tonight's special guest is Brent Chapman. He's a MLA candidate here in British Columbia, and while the whole map is turning blue, we're gonna have some conversation about why that is and why that's happening, because he's with the Conservative Party and he's running in Surrey South. So we're gonna be talking about that. Looking forward to that. But let's get back to that clip where we were reviewing Pierre Poilievre talking about drug dens. Let's not call them safe injection sites any longer, because that's not really what they are. Experiencing interruptions, find out why. Well, it's because of Starlink. Can you just let the video play, please? Come on. I gotta give it a safe injection of my own. We're at 137. Where were we?
Eric Andrew G, Globe and Mail.
Oh, I guess that wasn't a safe injection at all. Well, come on, internet. What are you doing? Looks like I'm frozen up entirely, too.
the people who caused
There we go.
the 400% increase in drug overdose deaths in Vancouver. You're going to call them experts. They are expert. at destroying communities and ending lives, but at perpetuating their own industries.
Wow.
Because that's what they are.
That's good.
They are industries that want to expand, and the only way they can continue to exist is by keeping the misery going. So they're not safe. They are unsafe injection sites. They are drug dens, and we oppose them. The Supreme Court has been very clear that these radical bureaucrats don't have the right to open these drug dens anywhere they want. The court made it clear that there are reasonable restrictions that can be placed on them, and that includes playgrounds. So I've told you my policy. I'm against the drug dens next to children's playgrounds, schools, other places where people who are vulnerable in the community live. We will defund them. There will not be a single taxpayer.
Penny D with a $2 super chat. I think Olivia Chow wants to have a rain tax. Yeah, that was brought up before. I was memeing about it this week on X because they're flooding in Toronto, and they're flooding because the infrastructure hasn't been taken care of. So much for all the taxes that Torontonians are paying, and federal, money that's going to their infrastructure. They just had a flood back in 2013. Did they update any of their infrastructure? Did they clean out their storm drains? No. This is the Canada that we live in. Our tax money gets just blown on unnecessary things while the infrastructure is falling apart, and we've never paid more taxes before ever.
Dollar from the Poilievre government going to drug dens, every single penny will go to treatment and recovery services to bring our loved ones home drug-free. Thank you.
Okay, merci.
Nice.
Before we continue with this one, Steve's Hyde adding to the conversation here with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Steve's Hyde. Friend of mine was given a chance to receive Safe Supply. He told him that sounds like hell on earth. Happy to say he's clean now. Yeah, Safe Supply is really just the prolonging of the horrible addiction. You're not like, why? I think it was Marty that was saying on Thursday, what's next? Are we just going to give, bar tabs to alcoholics? Like, what are you doing? You're going to have a bar set up with free booze for alcoholics? Like, that's not going to help. It's not going to help people. They need to get clean. They need to get off of it. This is the reality of the situation. It's so crazy to me that this isn't just common sense.
Nice try. Nice try. The Supreme Court didn't say that. See, I know what you're trying to do. The Supreme Court didn't. No, I'm giving you my answer. The Supreme Court did not say that there can be. It's okay. The Supreme Court didn't say that you can have.
I love that. I think there was somebody in his team coming over and saying like, "Hey, bugger off, you jerk," or whatever. And he's saying, "No, it's okay. I'm gonna debate this one with this guy."
A drug den, whatever you want. It said that there are reasonable restrictions that can be placed to stop them from opening up in locations that endanger the community or where there is community opposition. That's what the Supreme Court actually said. Now, I know that wacko politicians and the Liberals and the NDP and their supporters in the media want to make it sound like there is a constitutional obligation that we allow these drug dens anywhere they want to go up. That is not true. That is the opposite of true. We have the power under Section 56.1
and an obligation
of the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act to reject these drug dens and shut them down where they endanger the public, and that's what I will do.
Good. And then I got to share this clip because I saw this just before went live on this. Somebody shared this one with me. Let me pop this up here because this one's great. This is shared by Don't Ban Me posting this.
What it is when...
Oh, come on, internet.
It sounds like a joke. We've talked about the problems with car thefts. What actually happened here in our GTA jurisdiction? Some guy's up before a judge for having stolen a car, gets let off, and went into the parking lot of the courthouse and stole another car. You can't make this stuff up. And that's what gets people frustrated. But can you imagine what it does to our enforcement people that say, here we are doing what it takes, the countless hours, efforts, energy, risk, and then we find out it's a bit of a catch and release system. I must tell you, because you asked the question, I'm glad, it is top of mind concern for my council and our mayors that everybody involved from the federal government on down needs to have a cold, hard look at what it is when we allow people who are the perpetrators of crime to freely go out, and the record shows commit more crime while they're waiting for a hearing date.
Yeah, that's
Something's
insane.
got to give there, and my heart goes out to the victims and to the people in uniform that say, they must want to beat their heads against the wall when they get home some nights and say, what is the point of this if I know these people are back out on the street? So thank you very much for your question. I know it is being reviewed in earnest, but we need stronger results on that file, especially from our federal partners. Thank you.
No kidding. Absolutely no kidding on this one. I can't believe it. Oh, I can't believe it. Let's see what the chat's saying. I want to get into this really quick here. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey. A Phoenix Zen with a $50 super chat. Wow, let's address this one here real quick. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. That's amazing. Hi, Clyde. Thanks for your dedication in bringing Canadians truth. Thanks also for your great sense of humor and providing your unique take on current issues. Well, I really appreciate that. I'm trying to be honest. I'll tell you one thing that I try to do is I try not to watch other people's content, believe it or not. I try to stay away from watching other people's content, and it's really kind of messed with me because lately I've been watching Northern Perspective, and they're covering a lot of the same stuff that I cover, and I try not to get influenced by other people on their takes on stuff, because I want to bring, like you said, a unique perspective, a unique take on these things, and I'd rather not have too much influence on some of the things that I say prior to me making a video about it. So sorry, Northern Perspective, I'm gonna have to cut back a little bit on the amount of videos I've been watching from your channel. But yeah, I do try to avoid other people's YouTube takes on a lot of these issues, and that's, I mean, hopefully that's understandable. But I really encourage everybody else to go out and view these other channels, because they're doing a bang up job, massively doing a great job. So Phoenix, Phoenix, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Zen, thank you so much. That's very generous of you, and I appreciate it a lot. I really, really do. Especially in these times with all these moves and all this other stuff we got going on. It is very, very helpful. So thank you so much. Bryce Wade, I know that name. What's happening, my man? Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. It's really awesome of you. The far left, in quotes, calls anyone not part of their group right wing. We need to relabel the far left to what they actually are. Far left communists. Yes. Yes, that's what they are. They're far left communists. It's insane. One thing I've been trying to say is, like, get people away from this left right divide thing, is to say, yeah, we're really in a fight, because there are far right authoritarians too. We're really in a fight where, you know, we have authoritarians and we have liberty. Liberty is the individual. Authoritarianism is oligarchies and monarchies and, you know, whatever you want to call it. In the economy, you have monopolies, you have cartels. This is about control. And what happens in the system of control? Well, everybody benefits less. Of course, the people at the top, they benefit greatly, but everybody as a whole does less, does worse. They always do worse off. And this is why I'm a big proponent of saying that this is a real fight between authoritarians and liberty. People, individual liberty, everybody's individual liberty. Because, you know, you could make it a left-right thing, and then you say, especially when the government has so much authority, so much control, so much power, you make it this left-right thing, and what happens? What happens? The government has all this power, and people become tribal. People are pushing, well, if I don't get my guy in, the other guy's going to take away all my rights. And the other side's looking at it the same way. Well, I have to have my guy in, or the other side's going to take away my rights. It's a sad day for democracy when everybody figures out that you can just vote yourself other people's stuff. And this is why I don't agree with this concept. I think that individual liberty is the most important fundamental thing. It's not about voting yourself other people's stuff. It's about authorities not having the right. The government does not have the right to take these things from you. They don't have the right to take your property. And it scares me, especially in this day and age where you have David Lametti, when he was the justice minister, coming out on public TV and saying, well, at the end of the day, Canadians don't fundamentally have a right to property. That is absurd, and that should be seen as absurd. Absolutely seen as absurd. So yes, we're in a fight of authoritarians versus the concept of liberty. And we're not going to win by just getting the other team in place, because they're going to protect, they're not going to take away our rights. They're going to go after those guys. No, it's what we want to do is preserve liberty, and we want to shrink the size of government. We want to take that power away from government so that the next guy that comes in, when your team doesn't win and the other team wins, well, it doesn't matter because they're feckless and they can't take your stuff. They can't take away your rights. They can't take away your property. And that's the concept here. And this is what I'm really, I try to drill home to everybody. It doesn't matter. What matters is liberty. Let's fight for liberty, and let's fight to make sure that our members, our representatives, all of these people are on the same page as us. And when we get them in, we want them to make a pledge to us that they're going to shrink the size of government. They're going to take away this power that the government's been usurping and putting in place so that they can take away your liberties. Bryce Wade with another $10 super chat. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's the oligarchy, the commies versus humanity. Yeah, that's what it is. It really is. And that's where we need to get. That's where we need to get. And we get there by educating people. We get there by helping them realize that this is an ideological battle. This is a fight between the concepts of being ruled over or having the ability to manifest your own destiny. The concept of, somebody telling you what to do as opposed to you deciding what you want to do for your life. Mistakes or not. And that's the crazy. Okay, I think I'm back. This is just gonna happen over and over again. Gotta get used to it. This is a thing that we're gonna live with, because I'm on satellite internet. So if I, throughout the rest of this stream, if it pauses, if it hiccups like that, just know that that's why. It's because of this. Now, I have a special guest tonight, and I want to bring him on because he's one of those representatives that we were talking about. We need to be talking to our representatives. We need to be bringing these ideas to our representatives so that they can represent us, because that's the whole point of it. The whole point of representative government is that we have these conversations with them. Don't just like every 4 years or so, you like, well, I heard his ideas. I hope he's good and I hope it works out. And if it doesn't, well, no, we have to have these conversations, and this is the whole point. And this is the idea. So tonight, of course, I'm bringing in Brent Chapman. He's a MLA candidate for Surrey South, and I've been looking forward to this conversation for some time. And well, let's just add him to the stage and bring him on. And Brent Chapman, thank you for joining me today.
There he is. I took my tie off.
Oh, the tie's gone. I like it. I have a no tie policy.
Heads up, guys. Heads up, guys. It's nice. A good friend of mine. It's one of his. It's his brother. He lost his brother to suicide, and he's put so much of his effort into raising money for Heads Up, guys. He's raised a lot of money to keep this going, because mental health is really important at this time.
Absolutely, it's really important. I mean, it's important time. I wish it was more important before we lost so many people, but we have no excuse. We got to keep talking about it. We got to keep having these conversations. I know they're tough, but that's kudos for the effort.
Yeah, well, You know, I heard some of the things that you were talking about before, and I'm glad I tuned in because, boy, I'll tell you, it's not very lighthearted. You get into all the heavy stuff. It's good.
I like getting into that.
Yeah.
I think it's important, and I think at the end of the day, like I'm more of a first principles kind of guy, where I like to see what's happening right now and then break it down to, well, what's the core concept, what's the core principle behind this, and is this something that we want in society, or does this fall along something that we should be rejecting? And of course, if you can break everything down to the core principles, then you can use the Socratic method to see if these are the things that are things that we can accept in society, or these are things that we should reject. And fundamentally, this whole left-right divide, or tribalism, whatever you call it, I do chalk it up to the idea of authoritarianism versus liberty, and there's a real push for authoritarianism right now, but there's also equally a lot of people waking up to the concept that liberty is what we really want, and this is what we need to fight for, and they'll take it from us because default is authoritarianism.
Yeah, I think the thing that we miss sometimes is how much is constitutional as opposed to parliamentary or legislative. That we have, we've settled on constitutional issue, or constitutional, what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of barriers that we think are sort of in place, but we don't really have a right to property, and we don't have the same right to free speech that they do in the United States. We don't have a First Amendment. We are really at the mercy of Parliament if someone's going to let us speak. And we should push for constitutional changes and say these are the things that we want, and we demand them. I suggested to someone that we need another Magna Carta, that we need to start again and rethink the relationship we have with authority, period. Because like you just said, these governments come and go, but there's a permanent government that sits there, and they have an awful lot of sway, and it gets more and more now as we go. I talk about the fact that the Prime Minister of Canada doesn't swear an oath to the Canadian people. He swears an oath to the Queen and her heirs, but also to uphold the secrets of the Privy Council. I'm not even sure exactly what that means, but for us to think that this person is representing us, they've got to prove that, because it's not there in the oath. Whereas the American president swears to defend and uphold the Constitution, and that's his job more than anything else. That's what everybody lives under.
Well, and one thing that I admire about the American system is that the Constitution itself is written in a way, it's a statement to the government from the people to say, these are our rights. They're inalienable rights. You cannot infringe on those, and we won't accept that. So here's a set of rules that you cannot infringe on.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal. I mean, the founding fathers created something. They drafted something that the world had never seen before. They said when Washington passed authority over to Adams, it was the first time in the history of mankind that the leadership of a nation was handed down without bloodshed or death. That it was done civilly by people, but the actual leadership, not some sort of not just underneath a king, but the actual leadership of the country was peacefully transferred. And so, yeah, it changes the way change the way the world look at freedom and free people, and like you said, liberty. But are we prepared to go to what it takes to get that? Because government and that power, from what I can see, is very intoxicating. I mean, for these people to think that they can be, like a god on earth and fix everything up, but at what cost?
Well, that's the sad part about it. It's really the fallibility of humanity at the end of the day. Humans will always think, well, oh, if I do it, I'll do it differently, right? The whole socialist experiment thing. Every good socialist thinks that as soon as they get into the position, they'll be able to do it better, and they'll be they're the good guy. They're not the bad guy that came before. But I would always say that every socialist went in with the right ideas. It's just they had to break a few eggs eggs, so to speak, along the way. And then, well, I've already broken a few eggs. Well, how's another 6 million eggs, right? It becomes a case where they're so ideologically driven that they're willing to make all these sacrifices. It's not, as long as it's not themselves, right? It's always other people that need to be sacrificed.
Yeah, they said that socialist isn't for the socialists, it's for you. Right? Socialism isn't for the socialists. You have to live with socialism. But I would say that it's, my analogy is that they're gonna jump out of the window again, but this time they're gonna fly, and they keep trying it. It just does not work, and it never has worked.
Pinochet helped with that when his helicopter rides. That's a joke, obviously. No, but this is the concept, right? So and I think the founding fathers in the United States figured this one out. They realized. And there was like thoughts of this through the French scholastics, and they weren't the first to even conceptualize this, but the idea that, you know, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and so we need to set up a system of governance where, yes, there are people that are going to be democratically elected for the role, and they're supposed to be representatives, but let's break up the powers so that they basically don't have a lot on their own, that they're not able to do a whole lot. They just have whatever role that they're given, and then that's it. I think over decades and decades and decades, we've been working at amalgamating powers and bringing them closer to a central authority again. You're seeing attempts at this in the United States. Of course, their documents are so much better, more robust to thwart this. But in Canada, I mean, how much power is in the PMO? I mean, we even had, this week we had the premiers all getting together, left and right, saying, hey, would you stop trying to run our provinces? We have a job to do. Would you stay out of our affairs? The PMO thinks that they're a dictatorship.
Well, they say that the Canadian PMO, the Prime Minister of Canada, is the most powerful leader in his country that there is in the world. He appoints all the committees. He appoints all the judges. He appoints, all the ministers. I mean, he's just got so much power. You think about those judges, that's a really big deal. And it goes right, the whole federal court is appointed by him and his office. So that, like you say, that PMO is just all powerful in this country. And you're absolutely right. It should not be. They said to Thomas Jefferson once, they said we should have longer terms for congressmen so they can get more done. He said there's nothing to do. He said there's very little to do. He says you've got a constitution that you have to work with. And he said if you want to exact small changes here and there, maybe you should do that. But sweeping changes, you don't need to. We've done the work on that. But here in Canada, we have a parliament that comes in and will wipe out everything. I mean, look at Stephen Harper. We actually probably were much better off under Stephen Harper, but pretty much his entire legacy has been wiped out by, the hoodlums that are running things now.
Which is terrible, because then, somebody comes in and governs well for a period of time, and that can all be undone. Yep. And I'm not even saying that Harper was the best at governance. No. I mean, fiscally, I was more of a fan of his economic policy. Obviously, it benefited a lot of Canadians. Largely, we weren't affected as much by the 2008 crash as other countries surrounding the United States, big trading partners with the United States. I know Japan. My wife's from Japan, so I know Japan got hit really hard with that. Other countries obviously did, but we did well. We did well considering, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the fiscal policy. But I mean, there's other things that I wasn't a big fan of, like the concept of the Trans-Pacific Partnership that they were all happy to get on board with. There's a bunch of other things that I mean, we all disagree on. Sure. Every politician. It's not.
No, but we have to remember too is that he did a lot of that with a minority government, and then had a majority for a very brief period of time, actually. But found a way to work and still get things done and save us with the the counter of the NDP and Liberals, sort of pushing back against everything he was trying to do. But I know the TPP, I don't, I feel like every time I think I understand it, I'm confounded by why we're doing these things. I don't quite understand, to be honest. I'm sure there's probably a good reason, but I'm not getting it. I don't see how. The other part too that was very difficult for Harper was he was working with a very hostile American government. I mean, Obama was no friend of Harper's at any time there. And I think a lot of
That's
things were
true.
done trying to find some rapprochement. We could find a way to make things work. There was a lot of stuff that had been. I think the pipelines, much of the stuff we did with the pipelines was all just trying to see if there's a way we could get those through. So we agreed to things climate-wise. I don't think he necessarily thought he thought he would work around those later once we got the pipelines through and got things going. But there it is.
Yeah, tell me about that, because I mean, obviously you're an MLA candidate. You're going to be going for the legislature in British Columbia.
Yes.
But obviously you understand a lot about government. Now, when you're in government, yeah, you have to make concessions on certain things. We're not a country where the governing party has ultimate rule over everybody, and 50% of the population or whatever population that didn't agree with that has to just sit this one out for the next X amount of years. We still have a robust debate. We still have people that oppose certain ideas, and then there's compromises that need to be made. So yeah, tell us more about that. Like, I know here in British Columbia, there is a lot of things that went down under the NDP over the past however long they've been in. And have they made any compromises? Because they seem to have been very straight pushing their agenda.
Yeah, I don't feel there's many compromises they made. If any, I mean, they didn't give much to business. They didn't give much to free enterprise. I think they've taken so much away. I mean, we're going to be walking into, should we have the opportunity to govern, we've got the environmentalists that are going to be up against us, and they'll fight hard. I mean, we haven't seen much of them really in this province. Once someone else gets into power, things will probably really change. And of course, you got First Nations now that are much more, they're on the ascendance. I think UNDRIP has made quite a change in how we deal with land, and we'll have to find a way to work with them. And then what's nationally and what's going to happen for the next year with Trudeau and the federal government. I mean, they'll probably do a lot to try and frustrate us, because I think that's what they want to do. I don't think they have any. I don't think they really want things to succeed. I know it sounds crazy. You would think you'd want prosperity, but by their past performance over the last 9 years, it doesn't look like it.
No, I mean, they have a very contentious role or relationship with Alberta at the moment, with Danielle Smith. And, there are people in Alberta, conservatives, that are arguing that she's not doing enough. She's not trying. She's not pushing hard enough. That, this is once you're in, you have about 100 days to get your agenda moving. Like, this is where you're going. Push it, push. And if you don't, people just kind of fizzle out and feel that it's not going to happen. But she's been having this uphill fight, obviously, with Trudeau every step of the way, with Guilbeault every step of the way. Is this something that you guys are anticipating as the Conservative Party? That you look like you're going to win this. Like, it looks like you guys are going to be, if not a majority, at least a minority government moving into the election coming up in the fall.
Yeah, I mean, I really, it's funny. We talk about our leader, and people have. Someone said to me the other day, "Well, is he really a conservative?" And I said, "Well, it was a coalition party, and so this is a man who was a conservative from up north and has a chance now to be that conservative that I think he wanted to be in that BC Liberal Party." I feel that. I've talked to him, and I find him to be quite refreshing. He's got a very sort of a calm approach to that. But he said to me one day, "You be ready to work." He said a lot of MLAs, he said, for the longest time, found it to be a pretty casual job in a sense, where you had time to spend in your riding. As MLAs still worked, but a small little group would kind of make decisions, and then you just vote on things. He says, "I want all hands on deck." He said, "We're going to have to make some changes. We're going to have to fight to get this legislation through." That didn't bother me at all. I was happy to hear that. I think it's why I want to get involved in this. But yes, I think we're really prepared for what's going to hit us. I mean, the media is not going to be on our side. We're going to have, I'm sure we'll have, like I say, the third parties and the environmentalists, and then there'll be an opposition, should we be so lucky to form government. So yeah, I think we're prepared for that. How much you can prepare for it until you actually get in there and see, what everything looks like once you get behind the, get behind the curtain and look around and see what they've done. I can't imagine the mess that it is. I really can't.
Is there a platform now that people can read? They can go read on the Conservative website on particular issues?
Yeah, Conservative Party of BC is got. I'm trying to think. I don't have the exact website address, but you can look it up. There's a policy page. frankly, before I was going to run, I read that and thought, wow, I can really get behind this. Like this was great. I was so happy. I've been a member of the party for a long time, and it just, well, I saw that and I thought, wow, I was really enthusiastic to see something so straightforward that people could embrace. I could embrace. I thought it was just really well done, and I know that the people that in the party that are up above that. I don't want to overstate it, but it's a lot of hard work. We've got an executive director who's just constantly going, and now right now with things going the way they are, I mean, it seems like all that work is paying off, which is great, because so many times it doesn't pay off. And I think for so long the Conservatives were really thrashing around, and now I think they've got focus and they've got something, sort of a vision. And I would look at the Conservative Party of BC, the Our Ideas page, and I do like that a lot. There's straightforward.
I saw this article just before going live tonight, and I just wanted to pop it up. And this is from True North, talking about BC Conservatives deny NDP claim that they'll cut healthcare funding. So this is a claim that was put out by the NDP saying that, well, I'll just read some of it. BC Conservatives are denying the claim that from an NDP MLA alleging that the party wants to cut healthcare by millions of dollars. On Thursday, the BC Conservatives announced that their party's healthcare platform promising large reforms to the province's single-payer healthcare model, which I think needs serious reforms. I mean, you don't even have to know much about politics to know that. But after the BC Conservatives' healthcare announcement, Langford Juan de Fuca MLA Ravi Parmar uploaded a video to X with the caption claiming that the BC Conservatives want to make the biggest cut to the province's healthcare budget in history, and that they would result in doctors and nurses being fired. And I thought that was rich, because we're the only province where doctors and nurses are still fired over the NDP's legislation to keep them out of their jobs because of not getting the jab. And here they are saying that you guys are going to fire people. I'm like, how do we square this circle? Because there's always like a bunch of BS, and then there's the truth. So where's the BS and where's the truth?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked in detail at our healthcare policy, but I mean, I know the general idea of it, but there is the idea of cutting and taking out things out is sort of the typical cry from the left whenever the right comes along. I think money is going to be spent more wisely and trying to reinvigorate opportunities for other healthcare options, but absolutely bringing back doctors and bringing back nurses that are still out of work. We've got highly skilled people that need to come back to work. So I would have to, I'll check back with you on that number, that $4.1 billion. I've not heard that. I mean, it's so that, yeah, that's completely new to me. I didn't realize that was even out there.
Oh yeah, that you were reading that. Yeah, Parmar pointed out that 12 of the BC Conservatives patients first healthcare plan, is in quotes here, claiming that BC Conservatives are planning a $4.1 billion cut to the province's healthcare, and that they want to privatize the healthcare system. So this is one thing that this is me just kind of on a personal rant. The concept of privatize, the word itself, it's a loaded word. It's a word that comes with a connotation that says the government ought to run this enterprise, that the government is the only one that should ever run this enterprise. But that's ridiculous. I mean, you look at all kinds of different enterprises that the government has taken over and socialized, and they run it poorly. They run it way worse than the private sector could possibly ever run it. And then to suggest that possibly that Canadians might have a private option, we're the only country in the OECD that doesn't give a private option to healthcare and relieve some of the burden from healthcare, for example. But yet we're in such dire straits here in British Columbia that we're sending people to the United States for cancer screenings and cancer surgeries and all these other things, when we have, for example, the Cambie Surgical Clinic with Dr. Day, who's perfectly willing to do it, but the Supreme Court of British Columbia has shot him down for over 12 years.
Yeah, it's so confounding. I don't even know. I don't have an answer. I find it to be astonishing that there's we're so ideologically driven. We'd rather see people go without surgery than finding a way to, you have like a pressure valve where you could have people who have the means to go forward and get the care that they need, and maybe free up the space for somebody else in the public system. But in Singapore, it's kind of interesting. They have a system where people, doctors who work in the private system, have to work 1 day a week in the public system. So they take that skill and bring it in, and they spread that knowledge and teach the other doctors how to do things at that level, and it works out fine. They do a lot of work for people. People get that quality kind of quality health care that they need. I mean, it doesn't have to be between America and really what there's only Cuba and North Korea are the only other two countries not allowed to have private health care. So it's good company we're keeping. But there's other models. There's other models around the world. I mean, France or England or Sweden. I mean, gosh, we follow them in everything else when it comes to climate. But I mean, why can't we look at their healthcare system and see if there's a better way to do this? I'm a little stunned by that. Of course, as soon as you talk about it, people get hysterical pretty quick.
Yeah, why is that? We have this weird culture in Canada where, as far as I know, there's two things that make us Canadian for my entire life. I'm a dual citizen, by the way. So I've always lived in border towns, and I've always associated myself with half American, half Canadian. And it's always been this thing where be proud of being Canadian because, one, we're not American, and that's somehow a virtue. And then the other one is always been healthcare. And we have free healthcare. You wouldn't want to be like those Americans. But I mean, there's other countries that have free healthcare, but they allow, private as well and all of that stuff. But it just seems ridiculous that this is the culture that we have. So it becomes a thing that, we have this in our heads that our healthcare system's good when it's terrible, but people still believe that it's good. How is that?
I don't know. I mean, I've got a few years on you, and it's never been any different. And the idea that they think that Americans sit around and they look away from the Yankees game and say, "Gosh, if we could only be in Canada, we get free healthcare." Like they really think that people trying to be like us. It's laughable, really. I don't think they give it a second thought. I really don't. And one thing about the United States, if you have insurance and you're in the United States, if you're able to have insurance, and I know it sounds but it's phenomenal. I mean, you're tested and your diagnostics are the best anywhere. And I mean, if you've got something wrong, they're going to find out what it is because they have to. I mean, they're quite litigious down there, and if they screw something up, you can come back at them. So I mean, it's kind of they're held to a very high standard by the courts themselves. Now I'm not sure they always win, but I mean, they do think about it. As is the public system. I get the feeling the public system is pretty much like ours, because they do have a public channel in there where people can go.
Yeah, that's right. No, you're absolutely right about that. I know a lot of people in the United States, and they all say, well, it's pretty good, and they get misconceptions of what healthcare is in Canada as well, because they'll say, when you go to your dentist, you're like, but that's private. Okay, well, when you get your eyes checked, well, that's private. Oh, when you get physiotherapy, that's private. Oh, when you got a massage, that's private. Like, what covers? What are you covered for?
Yeah, podiatrists. You get your feet. Podiatrists are the same thing. You pay for them. You pay for it, right?
Yeah.
You don't.
Incidentally, I'm a mechanic, and I constantly get stuff caught in my eyes, even though I wear glasses. But stuff gets in my eyes. I always go to my optometrist because I'll be in and out in an hour. And that's, I'll pay a nominal, it's a small fee, but I'll be in and out in an hour. If I go to the emergency room, which is the only option in the public medical system, I'm there all day. I'm there the entire day. So it's not even worth my time.
I mean, especially, this is one thing about men. How many men go, I'm just not going? I think a big part of it is I'm going to sit there all day, and at the end, someone's going to say, you're okay, go ahead, you're fine. And men don't get the kind of attention they probably need. Because of that, and if they had the opportunity to go somewhere else, they probably would. And you're smart for doing that. Pay a bit of money and get it done, and you're out and back to work. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have that opportunity.
It can be a bit of a cultural thing. Like, suck it up, Buttercup, get back to work.
I wonder if I'm going to try and tell us, if I could, if you indulge me for a second, about the approach to job. I'm going to try and tell this story. And I don't want to talk about who it is, but I want to talk something I was exposed to. It was years back, not too long ago, but just someone that I got to know, and he was struggling with addiction. And they took me into, they called me up one day from BC Health Services or Family Services. They said, come to a meeting, and everyone was there. And they asked me, they said, well, his son, they said, would you look after his child when he wants to use? They said, could we get you to do that? And I said, no, I won't do that. And they said, well, why? Because we're trying to do harm reduction here. And I said, well, I'm not going to make it easy for him to do drugs. And there were 3 people there. I'm just being blunt. But 3 people out there with family services were looking at me like I was a mean. They said, well, we're talking about harm reduction. And I said, no, I think it's kind of like harm amplification. I said, I don't want to make it easier for him to do this. I said, this is something like you just said earlier. We got to get people to stop this. So I really wonder how many more stories there are out there where people are put on a spot like that to try and, further this. It's quite shocking as to what's going on here in our province.
Well, that's an interesting one, because I had Aaron Gunn on the show before, and he did the documentary. He's running for office federally now, but before he did that, he did the documentary Canada is Dying, which was all about the drug addiction issue in Canada. And so I had him on the show. I had him on the show to talk about that, and then I had him on again because his show got age gated on YouTube. And that's a hard restriction. So when your video gets age gated, you have to be signed in, and you have to click like, I agree, I'll still watch this.
Yeah.
But what it does to the video is it virtually makes it unshareable. It makes it so the algorithm won't pick it up because it's not going to recommend it out to people because it's under age restricted. So it squashed his video. And the reason why it got squashed was because well, he didn't know at first, and I did some digging, because my video talking to him about it and not showing any of the stuff that was in his movie got age gated as well. And I was really curious, and so I did some digging, and I actually found someone on Twitter who claimed that they were the person who flagged it on YouTube. And so I continued to have a discussion with this person, and they said that, well, I feel that it was hateful content because anything other than, helping these people out in the way that they prescribe is hateful, and that you're hateful towards addicts if you don't want to indulge them in their addiction and you want to actually get them off the drugs as quick as possible. So they felt that it was hateful.
Yeah, I mean, I tell that story, and I don't, but I couldn't have cared more about the entire family. And from my position, I mean, to say now he's clean and he's done great and he's doing fine. But at that point there, I thought, what are you asking of people to do here? Because I can't be the first person that was asked to do something like that. And you really scratch your head. I had a good friend who said that he was actually a doctor on the downtown east side, and he said if you're not pushing people towards recovery, then you're making a mistake by giving them access to drugs, easy access to drugs. You have to be going towards recovery. I mean, I hope we can change that and move towards that, because my gosh, the broken souls. I mean, I used to have a friend who owned a gym right down at Hastings in Maine. In the early 80s, I would go down there, and I'm not saying it was a nice place, but it was okay. I mean, it wasn't too bad. And work out, and I'd go home on the bus and take the bus back to Coquitlam, and I wouldn't walk around with 20s hanging out of my pockets, but I mean, I could get on the bus and just keep my head, keep alert as to who's there. But a lot of the boxers and the guys lifting weights would all jump on the bus and go. It was not a big deal. Today, I mean, I wouldn't go there at 11 a.m. I mean, that same area, it's tragic. It's absolutely tragic. I'm not mad at those people. I just feel so bad at all those broken souls and broken lives. I don't know how we can think for 1 second we're helping them. Do you remember Through a Blue Lens? I think that's what it was called. Do you remember that the police documentary they did? The Vancouver police shot their own videos, and they showed them. It was the downtown east side, And if you look at them again today, it looks like a travel log. Like it looks like, oh, look at that downtown looks great. Like it was supposed to be how horrible it was, but compared to today, it's quaint. I mean, and again, more broken souls, and I felt bad, but nothing like this is today. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it's hard to drive down there. It's hard to look at that. You know, but yeah, if you get a chance, it takes you back to the 90s. And it's called Through a Blue Lens. I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. And the Vancouver PD were kind of groundbreaking. Yeah.
And it's like one tiny area of the street where there's.
Well, yeah, they kind of go into Gastown a bit and some of the back alleys, and they find people. And I mean, yeah, I mean, look, Friday night and what they call Welfare Wednesday was always a little bit rough, but I mean, compared to what this is today, I say it's all sheep and lamb. It is.
It really is mind blowing, and I would encourage anybody in the area to go see it from the safety of your vehicle, drive through and see it, because like don't take people's word for it. Go there and like you're safe if you're in your car. Lock your doors, drive through it. But it like you can't go from one end of town to the other end of town without having seen it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right on the main drag. Hastings, if you're, I don't know, say you're, I went to BCIT, and if I wanted to go to downtown from there, I got to go right through the downtown east side. It's right there.
Yeah.
You're driving right down Hastings to get there. And it's disgusting. It's really, really sad what's happened. And it's funny because I was talking about this with Marty up north. I do a show with him every week.
Sure.
And this week it came up, and he brought up the fact that, like, well, okay, they're doing this. Why don't they open up a bar for alcoholics and have free shots?
Well,
like, I mean, it's the same thing. It sounds ludicrous. Of course, you're not going to do that.
Well, I said it's like,
it wouldn't
why
help
don't you
people.
get a pickup and a trailer and take a hoarder out to garage sales on Saturdays and load it up for them?
Yeah, it's weird.
Grab what you want. Yeah.
It's
Don't you need a
addictions.
record holder? Don't you need another record? How many newspapers do you want? We can get them for you. We can load them up. I mean, it's insane. Yeah, but they were talking about the ingredients in like some pop that they want to get rid of, and they're taxing sugary drinks and that. If I come around the corner and I see my kid, drinking an Orange Crush and eating cheesies, I think I can handle that probably better than them doing, fentanyl or, trank. I'd probably have, I think I could work them through that and get them off the orange stuff if I had to. It's
the orange stuff.
It's goofy. I mean, we become. I don't know. Like I said, they can't be trying to fix it. They can't be. It's just.
So this is actually, because you bring up the sugar drinks, and this is a perfect example of why governments always have a short-term solution that turns out to be very long-term and causes these ripples through the economy and causes issues. So why is it that we, the Mayor Bloomberg, this is why it became famous, wanted
Michael
to
Bloom.
make a sugar drink tax in New York, and that was this is why it hit the radar, everybody's radar. And other municipalities, other places, they even in Canada were musing this idea. So this is why sugar drinks are so cheap. It's crazy. So back in the turn of the century, like early 1900s or even the late 1800s, there was sugarcane farmers in like Louisiana and Florida that wanted to compete in the market for sugarcane, but the South American market, trade, new trade routes were coming up, and technology to bring supplies across from country to country was happening, and sugarcane grows like weed in like a weed in South America.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't have to try, it just happens, right? It's like,
Right.
I just found another couple of acres of sugarcane, let's go harvest that. So they couldn't compete with these South American sugarcane farmers, and it was just flooding in the border, cheap. And they lobbied the government and said, we need a tariff on the border on sugarcane. And so enough lobbying goes through, and the government obliges them and says, okay, you're going to pay this tax. Well, who benefits? The farmers, not the consumer, obviously. The consumer doesn't benefit at all. Well, guess what? Those farmers failed anyway. And then they got into whatever other products or whatever thing that they could do with their acreages, and the taxes remained. The tariffs never went away.
Right.
So the tariffs, they stuck around for ages, and people were looking for alternatives for sugar because it just cost too much for this sugar that came from South America through the tariffs. And then the corn farmers come in and they say, hey, we've discovered this new thing, high fructose corn syrup. It's great. It's a great replacement for it. Well, that became the thing, so they started using this in food products. And then it got even cheaper when the government came in and said, hey, we're going to use tax dollars and subsidize corn so we get a whole much more of it. And so the government's actions made high fructose corn syrup, which is really unhealthy for you, readily available and cheap. And then all the soda manufacturers started using that.
Right. And then you have then the Farm Bill comes up in what, 2006? Was that when they did the Farm Bill? I think it was around that time. And
I'm not sure.
Now corn is going to be a fuel, right? So ethanol. So they did it again. I mean, they repurposed.
Oh, they add more.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Yeah, they add more.
Pile on more.
And then it's crazy. So at the end of the day, you live in New York City. You want to get a soda, and it appears super cheap, but the problem is it's only cheap nominally. You're actually paying for it in your taxes federally, and it's only available this way because of tariffs that date back over 100 years. And now the mayor says, for your safety and your health, we're going to put an extra tax on it to bring it back up. And this is the reason why in Mexico they use sugar in Coca-Cola, because they don't have those tariffs there.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and you're talking about like all these politicians. I mean, so many of these city councilors and people that get in, I don't think they have enough to do. So they come along, and you know, the UN comes along and tells them that they have some initiatives that they could champion, and so they jump on things like that. I mean, they're looking to make themselves busy, but the truth is, they really could just sit around and worry about crosswalks and you know, and making sure that the streets are cleared in the winter. I mean, that would be enough for them to do. But they look for more and more things to get themselves involved with, and I don't know. I mean, like,
and then they neglect the tasks that they're actually there for.
Exactly,
like you said, clearing sidewalks and roads. That stuff doesn't get done, and then we have all this other added stuff that they put on their plate.
And the regulations that they've imposed on builders and the cost of the fees. I mean, the cost per square foot is skyrocketing. But now they're saying, now there's a move from the provincial government. They put an order in council through Bill 44, 45, and 47 that's densification of residential property. That they're telling people, and it's not an option. In some cases, they're saying if you're near a bus stop, you're going to have to densify. You're going to have to add on to your property. You have to have more dwellings, more living space. They're also talking about people giving up, you know, space in their homes to homeless people. If you have a big home and it's only, you know, a couple people in the house, with just I don't know where that's going to go. But they're actually, this densification is something that they're really pushing through. And the law actually stated, it was an order in council, so it's not legislation, but they said that there is no duty to consult, that the government has no duty to consult with the public. They're just telling the municipalities what they have to do. So they're actually forcing them to densify. They're starting to do it now. They're imposing this on corner lots. If you're near a bus stop, they're going to try and, I don't know. We haven't improved the services. We don't have our infrastructure is not improved. It's outrageous. It's going to be one of the biggest issues we face. If we don't.
Well, what's the new minister of housing? He was the old minister. It's not Mark Miller. It's the other guy.
Housing. Who's housing now? Not Champagne.
The guy who used to be
Fraser,
the immigration minister.
Sean Fraser.
Yeah, Sean Fraser. So he got on Twitter, and I showcased this on one of my live streams. He had a tweet where he said, "Oh, okay, we're going to grant people up to $40,000 to make another dwelling on their property." Or, you know, you.
Yeah.
I told you that was going to happen. I told you that was going to happen. All right.
I'm going to stop. I'm going to go. Anyway,
so he put out this tweet saying we're going to encourage people with this, you know, we're going to give you a subsidy up to $40,000 to build another dwelling on your property. And I brought this up because it's so absurd that he's neglected the fact that on every level, governmental level, you're not going to get even close to making that with $40,000. Not to mention, he wanted it as this speedy thing. And the reason why I say you're not going to get to do it is because the regulation. You're going to have to ask for permission to do it. And then you're going to have to get permits for all the different aspects of the build. Even just the concrete slab alone is going to cost you tons of money. And then you try to build a foundation, a building on it, a dwelling, a separate rental unit with a separate hydrometer, a separate this. It is astronomical the amount of money that it costs these days. And he's trying to use this as an incentive to do this quickly to house people. And it's like, dude, you got to realize, Mr. Government guy that's got this fancy idea, it's because of governments, it would take 2 years to even get the permission to make that happen. It's not a speedy thing.
Well, you wouldn't be running out of potato chips if you didn't let so many people into the party. I mean, this is the problem here. I mean, it's you can close the border at any time and we can stop this. This is a manufactured crisis. So, and it's the old cause the problem and offer the solution, or, you know, it's the Hegelian dialectic. I don't whatever you want to say. It's like in slow motion, though. They've just steamrolled us. And I don't understand how I don't know. I don't know what you do, but I'll say this. Should we not be able to form government, and hopefully that we will, but I would say this. I would tell the government, first, you get all the infrastructure in place. You bring the sewers and the infrastructure all up to grade, up to standard. And then if we want to build homes and build extra homes after the 12 years it takes you to do that, then we'll ponder that at that point. But this is crazy. I also think, though, I think we should, I know this sounds bizarre, and maybe, I'm not sure, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think we should have elections for the UN. We have UN elections, worldwide UN elections. And if these people are going to run our lives, then we need to vote for them.
Well, I don't think we should delegitimize them. I don't think they should.
But that's okay. Just the practice of them having to come out and debate each other and take 8 months off when they couldn't be making all these decrees and that. If we can't get rid of them, let's just say you got to be elected. I don't even care. I just think we have to do something to stop this, because
I like that. I like that idea. Tie them up with elections. We should make their elections annual.
Every 4 months. Yeah, I know. And seriously though, I'd say every 3 years we have to have a worldwide global election. I don't care. And we're going to have debates, and and here's the thing: you'd have the argument, because right now, what's the one thing that's missing at the UN? The one thing that's missing.
Representation.
There's no opposition. You have no right to oppose anything. That's right. So you look at parliament, you look at legislature, you look at city council, you have people to oppose, you have someone to oppose. There's no opposition. They're opposed. You know, you can go in there maybe if they want you to or let you to, but you and I can't go in there and say we don't like this. I mean, as I say, I go back to my Magna Carta. I mean, we have to have another relationship with power. We're allowing this to go way too far. You know, I mean, BlackRock is a problem, but I think our acquiescence to it might be more of a problem. I just don't know how you inspire people. And let's face it, I mean, the media and the academia and the courts are all on the other side. They're not going to go with us, but okay, well, maybe we need to fight.
Well, people are inspired, but I fear that people get inspired and without the knowledge, they can be pushed in the wrong directions, right? And that's when people just become mobs, especially when there's things to be genuinely angry about. And this is what I try to focus on with my channel. And like, as you came in, I'm talking about first principles and stuff like this.
Yeah.
This is why I get into the weeds. I get into the deep, heavy conversation pieces, because this is what people need to understand. And we need to understand what we're up against and how quickly people can be swayed and manipulated, especially by people who are very good at it. I mean, they're there for reasons. The guys like Trudeau are in office because he is very good at manipulating people.
Yeah, I think he is, but I think if he didn't have the backup of a compliant media and a compliant, I mean, there's nobody in, he doesn't have any pushback from third parties like we do. I mean, the whole thing, I'll say something. In 2015, there was a thing called Imagine October 20th. And I did a deep dive because I didn't like the way 2015 turned out. It was pretty bad. And the third parties, Lead Now, Council for Canadians, Dogwood Initiative, Sierra Club. They all went to work. I mean, they caused some real problems. But there was a thing called Imagine October 20th from a thing called, pardon my French, Shit Harper Did, SHD. And they were the guys who were responsible for the Stop Harper, all those little Harper signs on the stop signs, which no mayors would take off. Robertson wouldn't allow his people to take them off. They left them all there until after the election. But they came up with a thing called Imagine October 20th, and it was a series of rock concerts across the country. 7 in Toronto, 6 in Montreal, 6 in Winnipeg, Vancouver, Victoria, Edmonton, Calgary, Red Deer, blah, blah. Anyway, they had all these concerts, and they were all anti-Harper. They weren't pro-NDP or pro-Liberal. They were a little bit like pro-both, but they were most definitely anti-Harper. But here's the thing. Elections Canada was at every single event registering people. And in fact, they sponsored the evening in Ottawa. It was called Ballads and
Elections
Ballads.
Canada did?
Yeah, they sponsored it. I have the receipts. I kept them.
That sounds like outside of their purview because it sounds so partisan.
I would love to ask the question of who you investigate everyone, but who investigates you? Who investigates you, Elections Canada?
Right.
I mean, this was absolutely outrageous what they did, and I couldn't get anyone to bite. There's some senators that I tried to talk to; they weren't interested in taking it forward. But I can find a file somewhere on my computer. It's got everything in one folder, and it's just shocking. It's just shocking. And you saw, like at every event, it was anti-Harper, pro-NDP, pro-Liberal, right on stage. You're not allowed. You're allowed to promote an issue, but you're not allowed to promote a political party, or you're not allowed to, denounce a political party at these third-party events.
But effectively, that's what they were doing. Yeah.
It's exactly what they were doing. Not effectively, they actually were doing it. They actually were going against Harper and had anti-Harper signs. It was just the whole thing was crazy. But how does one party fight against that kind of power? I mean, and then like I said, then you got the media. What was the last election when Trudeau handed out, was it something like $68 million to all the local community newspapers across the country just before the federal election? Newspapers out here got $250,000, $450,000. They don't get that kind of money. If you're the local rag, I mean, you're not getting that kind of dough from anybody. So
no,
I mean,
and no wonder they're very upset about the idea of defunding. As the federal conservatives are talking about defunding not only CBC but defunding all of the subsidies that they give to all of these rags, all of these different publishers. I mean, how well would the Globe and Mail do today? How well would CTV do on their own today if they didn't have the subsidies?
Yeah, apparently there's even another level of that where they give away contracts to these people for, like, the Winnipeg Free Press got $5 million a year for providing news clippings to Ottawa, like to the government. I don't even know what it means. It's a handout of $5 million. I mean, I don't know what to say.
News clippings? I mean, just go on Twitter. You'll find all the clippings are right there.
It's just an excuse to give money away. That's what I think. But I wouldn't get rid of the CBC. I mean, I'm running provincially, so that won't be and if I was to ever get there, it won't be in my bailiwick. But if I was there, I would give you a show on the CBC. I would put Ezra Levant in charge of the CBC. I would keep it there. You do that for about 2 years, and I'm telling you, the Liberals will be dying to get rid of it. They'll get rid of the CBC themselves. But I'm not even joking. Why not use it as a weapon? Use our weapon, Northern Perspective. It'd be on at 8:00 every night. Why not?
Oh, that's too funny. Because it would kill us. Most of us YouTubers would be like, forget it. I don't want to lose my ratings.
No, you wouldn't, because everybody would watch. Do you remember Sun News? Did you watch it at all?
Nah,
when
never.
Sun News was on the air, it was actually Brian Lilly was there, and Ezra Levant, and trying to.
Yeah,
I think
I'm aware of it, but I never watched it.
It was way up on the dial. You got a nosebleed going up to those channels. It was so high, just kind of dizzy up here. But it was actually they wanted to bring it down to the regular cable, and so they would get that regular cable money for being on air. So they were trying to do that, and they wouldn't let them. They stopped them. But I'm telling you, if it did happen, people would watch that. It's not that people don't like. People don't. They have nothing against the news on TV. They don't like that particular news because it's one-sided and it's not informative. So they don't want to hear it.
That still kind of fits with my argument, because my argument is that CBC should be able to function on its own without government subsidies. And if the CBC made a good product, like you're saying, they would be able to function on their own because they would have a viewership.
But I mean, just for a while, let's see what it looks like in a country where conservatism is the one that you pay for. I'm sorry, but I'm just saying, why not play their game? Play their game for a while. What would that look like? What would it look like in this country if that's
a funny game. That's a funny game. Yeah, because it's definitely the other way right now. You look at the CBC hiring website, and they actively say no Caucasian males. I mean, what is that? I mean, it's discrimination at its maximum. And I'm not one way or the other. Just hire anybody who's capable of doing the job.
Yeah, I know it's kind of funny because you look at people on the air on CBC and you kind of want to go, yeah, I guess you're pretty hot. I mean, they got pretty good equipment, probably good makeup people and that, but you're kind of a fraud because, they can't hire anybody else. I mean, it's like going back and thinking about guys who weren't allowed to play, in Major League Baseball because of the color barrier. And you go, well, how good are these other guys? Are they good? I don't know. I mean, I guess they're okay, but we don't really know. If there's better people that aren't allowed to play, how do we really know who those people are? I mean, that's probably not the best example, but it's kind of like there. You look at some of these people and think, yeah, well, I mean, there's an awful lot of well-deserving people who could be on there happen to be Caucasian. I mean, look at the food line of the food lines and the streets seem to be littered lately with a lot of Caucasian men. It's a sad state of affairs right now. I don't know what's happened here. I think I know.
Well, and the interesting thing was that COVID really showed that their main thing was that they wanted an ideological line. And the amount of people that were fired from the CBC, CTV, Global, all these other places over their stance on mandates, that was really, really telling. And it really it radicalized them too. It radicalized them to a further degree because now the dissent within the company is gone, and now they're ideologically pure, and you just gotta go along with that. What do you do with a scenario like that?
Well, you don't, and
how do you diversify again?
Well, one thing for sure is you don't watch it because there's nothing to watch anymore. It's not there. I mean, and I should be clear, the idea that there's anybody. I mean, that I have a good friend of mine who's doing a lot of work getting food, surplus food and food that's going out of date, and getting it to some of the food hampers and that. And I'll be, there's a lot of people lining up to go there, and they're of all persuasions, and it's heartbreaking. There's a lot of seniors that are going to community food hampers to get a loaf of bread and see if they can get some beans or something. I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's like
that's the saddest part, because seniors they're subject to fixed incomes, right? So when you're stuck on a fixed income and your government is inflating the currency. Now, I keep talking about this on the channel. Inflation is the printing of the money supply. What they're measuring with the CPI and all this stuff is the effects of inflation. The inflation is actually increasing the monetary supply. The government is doing that in cahoots with the Bank of Canada. Now, when the government's doing that, they're really screwing over fixed income people first. Like you're on a fixed income, you're not getting an adjustment on your fixed income to match inflation. And when they flub the numbers to make it look like it's only 2.7% inflation, even if they were to adjust for inflation, you're not going to get the benefit of what the real inflation adjustment would be, which would be a much larger number nominally anyway. So those people are getting screwed over the worst. And to see that, seniors are going and waiting in food lines or lines to go to the food bank, that's just devastating.
It is absolutely devastating. I mean, I will say this though, is with inflation, but you can't carbon tax. You can't tax energy the way they are. You tax energy and then you increase it and you increase it again. I mean, that just, it drives the cost of everything up. It drives the cost of, like a friend of mine said, you can walk to the store. It's still going to cost you more when you get there. I mean, to turn the lights on, to turn the heat on, to turn the air conditioning on, it costs more all the time. That has to go somewhere. Forget just the transportation of the goods to there or getting the goods from the farm to the to the processing, and then from the warehouse and moving it to the stores. I mean, that's all gone up. Everything's gone up. I mean, it's I don't know, like you take that out of the mix, and I wonder how fast prices come down and where they land. I think we'd be quite startled to see how much is being added on by that. It's a crazy tax.
Well, the budget officer himself under in one of those committees said it would be a 60% reduction. I think right away. He said it would be massive. It would be massive, and it would be immediate.
Yeah, and that's where I wonder. I know I hear the talk about inflation. I think there's also something to that, but you wonder if that would be a first step. I mean, why would you pile on now? Why are you doing this for a global gas that we produce such a small amount in the world, and China and India produce massive amounts. And how many trees do we have that are that carbon sink? I mean, is it really a problem? Can they measure that problem? I mean, this is what I have to ask, and I'm not sure. I'm not thinking. I said it's like almost like telling your kid to get out and don't pee in the pool. Meanwhile, someone's running a full a pipe of effluent going right into the pool. You've done nothing by getting out and using the bathroom. It didn't make a difference. You're still swimming in it, And if carbon really is the problem, if it's the problem they say it is, well, taxing us is not going to stop this global gas or this global emission from affecting us. If that is what is affecting us.
So it makes me wonder if they're actually being serious about it. If you look at it and you look at it from a real world solutions perspective. So let's for the sake of argument say that they're right about their assumptions that global warming gases, that CO2 is causing this catastrophe that is a slow rolling catastrophe in our direction. Now, Canada is only 1.2% of global emissions. So that alone is like, it's not enough to reduce our consumption. But what we could do in lieu of our normal consumption, don't say we our consumption is unchanged and we continue with fuel prices at normal market rates. Yeah. But we were to increase forestries, for example, forestry production. That would be a massive carbon sink to pull carbon dioxide that's not even being emitted by us, but other continents. The carbon dioxide, we're talking about a global scale here. So the carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere, our trees would soak that up, and we would harvest those trees and turn it into tangible assets, homes, lumber, all of these things that are great. That a house that you put up is a carbon sink. These are things that are possible things that we could do, and we can have our cake and eat it too, and they can have their fantasy about the carbon dioxide, and we can say, hey, look, we're sequestering it, we're doing it a ton, and we're doing it in a responsible way by harvesting forests, and then on top of that, it would mitigate forest fires because we'd be taking care of the fuel load that's in our forests, all of these other issues that come along with that.
Right. But I think that's a great idea. The other, what I always say is that people say you don't believe in climate change. I'm saying, but if you sign the Paris Climate Accord that allows India and China and the third world, the developing world, to continue creating CO2 until 2070, and then they get to decide what they want to do, I would contend that you don't believe in climate change. That if CO2 is the danger, what are you doing to address that danger? Because we really aren't the CO2 problem in the world, right? No. So stopping us from CO2 and deindustrializing Canada, I don't, and meanwhile, these other countries, and good on them, are going full speed ahead with, the greatest industrial, it's like a second industrial revolution. I mean, China just keeps on, producing more and more things.
Well, the joke there is like, why does China not worried about global warming? Because they already have a communist government.
That's true. Yeah, I know. It seems so obvious. It just seems that it's obvious as to what's wrong here. But it's hard. I just argued with someone yesterday at the door and just telling me that I couldn't tell that all the changes, the climate change that I couldn't see. He said you have to see all the things that have happened, all the weather events. I've been around. I'm 64. I've seen enough weather events in my life. I they were as bad when I was a kid as they are now. There's really no difference. You know, he said, what about the thunderstorms? I live in Vancouver. I haven't seen I haven't really had a thunderstorm here in, I don't know, 7-8 years that of significance. I mean, I've never seen the odd crack of lightning here and there, but I mean, we haven't had a real big electrical storm. I don't know what he's even talking about.
Right. Well, I grew up in Ontario. I know what electrical storms look
Oh
like.
yeah, I'm from Winnipeg. Those prairie, you know, those prairie storms. I was a kid one day. I remember running home. I was about 11, 12 years old. I was riding my bike home, and I was being chased, but looked like a black roll of carpet coming across the sky. I'd never seen a cloud like this in my life, and it came rolling across the sky. And when it landed, you know, finally, it was one of the most devastating, you know, lightning storms I've ever seen. I couldn't believe it. I've never seen anything, you know, subsequently anything close to that. But
yeah, we used to witness that all the time in Ontario. Holy cow!
Oh, really?
The lake effect. Yeah, it does all these crazy.
Is that what
things.
that is? Is that what I was looking at?
Yeah, you get this. Whatever happens, this front will come in where it's, you know, clear blue skies, maybe the odd scattered cloud, and then suddenly there's this wall and it's like dark.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It comes over, and then it'll drop. It'll drop about like 10, 15 degrees immediately. The wind picks up and there's the gnarly storm, and then, you know, half hour goes by, an hour goes by, and then it's sunny again. That's just the way it would go. It was like that was just the month of May every day at about 4 o'clock.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I was in Florida, and I saw in Tampa where that's the same idea. At 3 o'clock they have gigantic electrical storms that roll in, and, you know, and wreak havoc, and then they go away, and then it clears up again. You have a really nice night, and everybody hunkers down, and they're fine when it's done. But look at, I mean, we just had. I said it was in July. I think it was about 2 weeks ago that the Greenland ice mass gained 4 gigatons on a summer day, when it normally that day it would lose 4 gigatons. First time it's an 8 gigaton swing. I don't know. How do you explain that? What is, you know, is that warming? I don't think so. You know,
I just think that every once in a while you get freak storms. I mean, it just happens. I mean, throughout history, we would hear all of these stories of, yeah, you remember the storm of the summer of '73? Like, you hear about this stuff. And I don't see any weird frequency thing. In fact, I think it was like one of the ladies who, it was a scientist, a lady who came up with this. First noted that there was like an increase. That's right. Yeah. And she was the first one to notice. She said at first that there was a frequency of storms coming in more and more and more because of global warming. And then she looked at the data further and realized she made a mistake. And when she was espousing the global warming theory, she was getting invited to all these places, and she'd get dinners and she'd get all this stuff, and they loved her. But as soon as she came back to correct the record, they squashed her. And they didn't. Yeah, and it was like, wow, okay. And then that's where people see the conspiracy. This is where conspiracy theories come from. Like, well, you don't like the news when it goes one way, and you know, this whole theory surrounds around what you can do as a government to tax and usurp more power. So obviously you're gonna go for that.
Absolutely. And I think there is something really important about pollution. I think that we have to look at whether it's mercury or nitrogen or what's in the water and what's on the ground. I think we do ourselves a disservice paying so much attention to CO2 when the real thing is actually, you know, hard. I like to look at our water and how is our water? How's our drinking water across this province? And are we at the level that we should be? And what are we putting into the ground? What else can we be? I mean, I have to say, I probably won't be popular. What's in those batteries, and what are we going to do with them when they're done in all those cars? Where are we going to put those? Because that stuff leaches into the soil. I can't imagine it's good. And we've yet to see, you know, how do they, you know, they burn pretty good. What happens when they get, you know, when they finally have to be taken out? Where are they all going to go?
Yeah, I just had another one of those hiccups of the internet connection.
That's
but
right.
yeah, where those batteries.
I thought it was kind of a dull subject, but not that bad.
No. No, I get really into this one.
Just get on with it.
No, because I like talking about this, especially. Okay, so I live in a particular region. I'm not very far from Britannia Beach, British Columbia. It's on the Howe Sound waterway. It's an inlet. Now, for a huge amount of time, there's this giant copper mine, probably the biggest in the world at one point, copper mine, and the amount of sediment and chemicals and all this stuff that ended up into the sound after I can't remember when they stopped milling. It was like in the 1970s.
Yeah.
And they've done massive reclamation projects to make sure that no more of it goes out into the Howe Sound, because it decimated the aquatic life, decimated it.
Yeah.
And now we're finally at the point where we're able to even eat the food that comes out of the water and this kind of thing. So yeah, it was a massive environmental thing. And these are the kind of environmental initiatives that I can get behind. Okay, well, absolutely. Yes, we want to have industry, but we want to make sure that we're not ruining our aquatic life. We don't want to ruin ecosystems, that kind of thing. But like this, sky is falling. Nobody really agrees on it. Stuff, and why are we letting other countries do what we are only doing in a tiny amount? Kind of argument. I just don't buy it. I really want to focus on real environmental issues. And like I said, while encouraging industry, we just need to find ways of cleaning our act up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anyone who's, I did not get to go, but I would like to go one day and take the tour of the oil sands. Apparently it's a wonder of the modern world as to what they've done. And reclamation is phenomenal. They were held to a high standard, and they met it. I mean, it's actually quite incredible how they replace everything, put it all back together after they're finished with it. It's as good as anything in the world.
They're literally steam cleaning oil contaminant that's in like, if anything, the environmentalists should be behind them going, hey, thanks for cleaning the place up. There was lots of animals that were being harmed by this carcinogenic stuff that was like in the dirt. You removed it all. Great, thanks.
Yeah, good work, guys. And they put the bugs back. I mean, they put everything back where it was. I mean, does anybody in the world? I just can't see the Saudis or Russia and Iran doing that kind of. I just don't see it. Maybe, but I don't think so. It's
not at all.
I think we're going to have to make a strong approach in this process, but even across the country. I know that people have misgivings, and I know that a lot of people that are online have some doubts about Pierre. I mean, that's another subject for me, but I've seen him close up, and I think that the guy is, to me, he's pretty solid. And I've seen stories about Maxime Bernier that are quite disturbing about his work with globalists when he was in Quebec. I met him. He's not a bad guy, but I don't think his dedication to the PPC. I mean, it's a long story. I just feel confident that if we can get things in place here, I like what happened in Saskatchewan, that decision that they can't come in and impose that tax on them. The CRA can't go after them for the carbon tax, which I think is pretty good, and it might bode well for us in getting rid of the carbon tax here in British Columbia, because it is what we want to do.
So yeah, I had Max on the show a couple of times. He was very robotic in his answers. I tried to get him to loosen up, but I couldn't. A politician all the way through with that guy. I want to get to some of these super chats before we end the chat, because I could go all night, and obviously we could chat all night. And you can join on the Discord afterwards. I think we're going to jump in there and have some more people. People maybe don't know that you're also a member of the Discord, so you can jump in there. But let's get to some of these super chats. Bryce Wade for $10 says it's the oligarchy plus the comms versus humanity. I think I covered that one already. Yeah, the commies. Bryce Wade also with a $5 super chat saying, I just wanted everyone to know YouTube is censoring my super chats. Talk about freedom and accountability is ridiculous. I've heard some of that. You got to watch what you say. The
keywords. Yeah.
Yeah, they nail you for some of that stuff. Steve's Hyde for $5 says making us frustrated on purpose does not sound crazy at all. Many of us here believe it is in fact their job. Absolutely, yeah. They're trying. That's the goal there. Frustrate us in all of our efforts.
I say it's not a shakedown. It's a takedown. It's not about money. It's about power.
Yeah. Bryce Wade again jumping in there, just
Right.
wanting to throw that in there. And another $10. If you're unhappy with your government, and what a better world for you and your family. You you have to be part of the change. Never give up. Never surrender. I love that he keeps using that term. We went to the We Unify conference in Victoria recently, and he added that to his speech, and I was laughing because that's the catchphrase from Galaxy Quest, incidentally.
I had a lady last night. I went to her door and I knocked on her door, and she says, "I've never voted." She says, "But no one's ever come to knock on my door before." I said, "Well, I'm here." She says, "Yeah, but I've never voted." I said, "Well, I've never run before, so if I could run, you can vote."
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, she said I might just do that. So it was
nice,
cool.
nice. It's cool to convince people to do that. And then at the same time, there's people who've voted liberal their entire lives that are starting to wake up to this and going, wait a second, I've been fed some crazy narrative. Got Trish Prue, member for 21 months. That's a long time. Holy cow. We're going on 2 years, Trish. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that the BC Conservatives are doing so well. I finally have a party I can vote for between Clyde and Wyatt Claypool from Calgary. Anytime he talks about the party, he tells us to donate. Yeah, so I mean, do you have a thing that people can donate to if they want to help you out your campaign?
So sheepish about that. I feel so humbled when people even want to help out. I got people calling to volunteer. I had a woman, I talked to her at a coffee shop, and I gave her my card and said, "You contact me anytime." I got home and there's a message for me. And she says, I'd like to help out somewhere. And I'm honestly humbled by that. Yeah, you can if you go to the BC Conservative website and look for my name there. Oh, there it is. And yeah, there's a donation. There's a donation button there. You can find my profile. And at the bottom, you can donate there. And if you do, I would be honored. Absolutely honored by it. You can volunteer if you yeah.
I like you without the tie.
They want to. Well, somebody said to wear like the plaid shirt. And I hate politicians when they put the plaid shirt like it's the cover of their country album. Like it's like,
oh right. You got your John Denver on. All right.
Yeah, like you're just gonna go chop some wood. Shut. Just don't stop doing that.
Penny D with a $5 super chat says, Clyde, your guest and I are so on the same page. Thanks. Sorry, I missed the name. Yeah, Brent Chapman. I just put that up on the screen. So yeah, you can go check him out. You're on X. You're on all of those things, right? People can contact you.
Yeah, Brent for Surrey South, I think it is, and then Brent Chapman, Surrey South for Facebook. I'm honestly, I got off social media. I just found myself spending so much time, I don't know, debating and sitting there. I said I text so poorly. I'm trying to fix a woman's watch with hockey gloves on. I'm just always like screwing up all the letters and numbers and of course I had an Android phone, and the spell check is the worst in the world. It said things the worst. I typed us and it would come up as, and I thought, it's so far from the keyboard. Why would you? I can see is, but I don't get as. And I would say some of the silliest things to people. People come back with question marks, like, what are you even trying to talk about? No idea. But I just got to the point too that I was wasting a lot of time talking to people that what was the point of it all? And I just pulled away from it all for the longest time. But now I'm having to train myself.
You can't engage with there's certain characters online that they're a time suck, and it's not worth your time engaging with at all.
A buddy of mine, we did a thing years ago, Ice Ice Baby, and we did all the NHL teams, and we put the lyrics, and we did it for the Detroit Red Wings in Colorado. It was all for the playoffs, and people would buy. I think we made a couple grand or something on it. Just had some fun. I wrote the lyrics, and he did the singing on. He was quite a talented guy. And I started to read through the comments, and he just said, rule number 1, never ever read the comments. He said, you never look at them. And he was right. You don't bother looking at them. It's just not worth it.
I read my comments because I got lots and lots of comments.
You're a different. Yeah.
You interact. You have to have a tough skin though. You got to have a thick skin. I tried doing the Joe Rogan thing where he just posts and ghosts. But I like having interactions with people. So this is part of the live stream format too. Every Friday, this is part of what we do here. Chippy's Outdoors, member for 25 months, says time flying over here late to the party like normal. Yeah, absolutely. Welcome in. Thanks for joining. We got Epic Knight with a $5 super chat, says, do you think Quebec should separate from Canada? Also, what is your stance about Quebec haters?
One day I was in Ottawa and I happened to be at the dining room, and there was a woman from Quebec, and she was telling someone that how people in Canada, that she said that Western Canada isn't like Canada, that the real Canada is Quebec. And she said, and people there, they're more like Americans. And she said, you know, they don't like us. And I said, I just started talking. I said, no, that's not true. I said, we look at you as our French Canadian cousins. I said, we're proud of what you do in the Olympics and proud of what you do when you play hockey and your entertainment. And you guys, we love you guys. You're part of our country. So we don't feel like that at all. And she was stunned. And I don't like some of the policies politically and that come up. I don't like some of the policies Ontario does. I'm not that impressed. Mm-hmm. So I can't just say it's just Quebec. And I think the Maritimes at the time, you know, and I'm sure we probably upset them with things. I'm just not sure what it could possibly be. But no, I wish there's a way that we could find the common ground somewhere where we feel comfortable with each other, because am I totally in love with the idea of like the romantic notion of Canada? No, but I still have a loyalty to what I think is should be a great country and has been a great country, but it seems to be kind of being torn off the rails a bit. I'd like to get back to where we feel good about each other, but I don't think it's about them. One guy from Quebec once said to me, he says, like I said, you guys have your own immigration, you control your immigration. He says, so then you control yours. And I went, yeah. He says, don't ask us not to do something because you don't have the courage to ask for it. And I thought, I can't really argue with that. Why don't we assert ourselves like they do, and then let's see what happens. So I think we can assert ourselves and we can do better. We can do better as a province, and maybe we won't feel so put upon when they ask for things, because maybe we'll ask for things as well. We'll stand up to Ottawa when we have to.
I like that. Epic Knight adding more to this with another $5 super chat, saying, I see a lot of hate for Quebec in the Canadian conservative YouTube sphere and from some of their followers too. What are your thoughts about that? And then actually adding more to that as well with a $2 super chat, saying, also hate about French language in general. So, I mean, I'll give my 2 cents. I've spoken out about my disdain for language laws. I don't agree with language laws. That's my thing. I don't really have any problem with Quebec. I joke about Quebec, and I have my joking back and forth about it. But I'm not a fan of language laws, and I think that leaves a lot of bad taste in a lot of other Canadians' mouths. I know it did for me. Like, why are you forcing me to do this? I don't want to do this. All the different products that we don't get in Canada because of the packaging, the labeling that we were forced to have in 2 languages. It's not the same for, out in British Columbia, there's probably more people that speak Chinese than speak French, in all honesty. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And they don't have language laws, and they don't need that for them, and we don't need it. I have had people suggest English language laws in British Columbia, and I no. And just don't, no way, I don't get on board with that. So I think for me, like the difference, I don't have a hate on for Quebec, but I'm very much against language laws. That's my perspective.
Well, there was a prime minister who could not speak either language. No, just kidding.
Max is not going to be prime minister. Quit kidding yourself.
No, I was talking more about Jean Chrétien, but of course Max as well. That speak the language. Wait. I have to say that I believe that I think we can do this, and I don't mean to sound. I mean, like I said, once again, we assert ourselves. Let's assert ourselves in our own province and go from there. I know there's a frustration sometimes, especially if you're following the parliamentary channel. You're always waiting for the translation, and you kind of wonder about why it has to be. But I think for some people in Ontario, where it crosses over the border and it gets quite difficult for them, I could see that. I'm just thinking we got so many bigger fish to fry right now. I don't feel.
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
don't feel like I certainly don't have hate for them, and they throw their weight around sometimes. But like I say, then maybe we should throw ours around too a bit. Maybe we should stand up a little more for ourselves, and we probably find that their approach would be a little more palatable, I think.
Yeah, see, like when it comes to language laws in Quebec, I've never, whatever, do what you want to do with it. It's just my opposition's always been about like Canada-wide language laws, and I understand the whole French being an official language. So when it comes to government stuff, that language needs to be available. Like, so if somebody speaks French in British Columbia, they should be able to go to a government office and be able to have somebody translate for them if nobody speaks it, that kind of thing. I get that, but we make those accommodations for people who speak other languages altogether anyway. So I mean, of course we'll afford people in that in French.
I think there was a time when it looked like the English culture throughout North America was getting so dominant that maybe you could understand that people in Quebec might have felt threatened because, let's face it, I mean, movies, music, television, it's pretty intoxicating to see that and to get caught up into that. So I guess they felt they need to protect, the language. But I mean, looking at France right now, there's talk of, with this new government making Arabic their language, their official language. I mean, that's how crazy it is. So I don't know what they're gonna.
That's nutty.
Yeah. That's right out of hand, that one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we've gone fully out to lunch with that one. But Brent, I want to thank you so much for joining tonight. I know we could go on forever. We've already done quite a bit of time. If you're interested, we're going to go hang out in the Discord afterwards. For everybody who's also unfamiliar with Discord, the link's in the description down below, so you can check that out. Join the Discord. It's another social media, but they have really good voice and video chat, so everybody can get together and hang out.
Yeah, I'm really honored to be here. Of course, I listened to you talk, and I realize why you have so many followers and you're so well respected. You've got a great
thank you
breadth of knowledge. I'm sitting here, I'm being quiet. Oh, God, I can learn. It's just fantastic to talk to you. And I find all the guys, I mean, everyone that I watch, and I don't have the I agree with you as far as watching other people do their work. I think it's a good idea not to. You get caught up in it sometimes. But I think you must read a lot. Have you ever read Frederick Bastiat?
I've read some of his work, not all, obviously not all of his work.
Have you seen the book? Have you seen the book? There's a book, a very simple book called The Law. It's Frederick Bastiat, The Law.
I think I've read excerpts from it. I haven't read the whole book though. It's highly recommended by a lot of people.
Yeah, I would recommend that you just because you're in that vein, and you would probably really enjoy that. And anybody who has any thought about liberty and about how government and government and really law get together and start to really take away things that should never be threatened. So you just might find it. I think you'd really enjoy it. That's all.
I'm making sure that I have that on my list.
Yeah, there's so much to read, isn't there? There's just so much. I haven't read Kafka yet. I haven't done that, and I really want.
That's a dive.
Yeah.
That's a dive. One thing I always was it Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson. I just got a copy of it because this is like one of those ones you can give out to people. This is one of those books. It's a must read. It's not a really hard one, but it'll convert you to libertarian economics pretty quickly.
I'll just say this: it's the one thing. If I do get the opportunity to go there, I don't think the solutions are actually that complicated. They're hard to put through, but they're not that complicated to fix this up. I think as long as you're trying to do the right thing for people, and not trying to have, like you say, like growing the government to be the answer. If you're growing individuals for the individual to be the answer, I mean, what they're doing to small business right now is absolutely appalling. And I just say this quickly. nothing breaks my heart more. And I don't know, there's an empath in me, but when I see a store and the sign says it's closed for, closed for good, or, soul, or whatever it is, shut down, and it's like, thanks for the business, something. I always imagine that person going home and looking at their wife or their husband, or looking at, their family, and saying, hey, I really tried. I did everything I could. But it's people pour their heart and soul into these businesses. And we've got a government in Ottawa and one in Victoria that's absolutely devouring these businesses. And it means it's devouring these people's lives. I mean, they've poured their lives into, whether it's a card shop or a bakery or a little sushi shop or a restaurant. I don't know. It's appalling what's going on here. It has to stop.
Yeah, it absolutely has to stop. Enterprise is the cornerstone. It's the backbone of our entire civilization. So we need to really prop that up, and we need to bring back. And you don't have to do much to prop things up. You just really got to get the heck out of the way. That's really all people are asking is go away, stop leave me alone, and allow me to just do what I do best. And that's really the key.
And it used to be the mayors, and it used to be the city people who used to fight for their own sort of constituents to keep those. The Chamber of Commerce used to fight for those things, and they would take on the government, say, no, you have to leave people alone, you have to give them room and help them. They would help they would help it because they knew that trade and commerce, not capitalism, it's trade and commerce is what makes us go. That free enterprise, that's what makes it tick. Not capitalism is a Marxist term. I won't use it.
No, it's the market economy. I love using that term.
Yeah, and, absolutely. We'll get it back.
I think we'll end it on that. That's a great note to end it on. Stay on the line, but I'm just going to end the stream here. I want to thank everybody that came out to this. This is a great chat. I love diving into the philosophical end of things and seeing how we're gonna move forward. How can we convince people our ideas are great ideas, and energize people. As soon as people realize where we're at, this is what really gets people motivated to do things, get out there, do something, vote, build a business, get energized, get enthusiastic about these things. So I want to thank everybody for coming out, enjoying the stream that we had today. Big thanks again. I can't thank you enough, Brent Chapman, for coming out. Make sure everybody goes over. When I publish this again on Monday, I'll leave a link in the description down below where you can go check out Brent, the Conservatives in British Columbia, what they're doing, where to donate, get those donations over, help out however you can, volunteer, do what you can. As always, thanks again, and thank you to all of you, and we'll see you Monday. Keep on